Mitch Malcolm, Garrett Landit, and Judy Schlusselman. Also in attendance is City Clerk Sandra Walton and myself, Mayor. The attorneys have the night off, and we also have Steve Beck, the administrator here. With that, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, approval of consent agenda, council minutes of January 3rd, 2024, and bills received. Do we have any questions or concerns on those?
I had one question on the minutes, wondering if we had written a thank you to Corporate Fairway for the water yet.
Steve, have we did that?
No, I wasn't sure who was gonna do that. Sorry, I'm trying to get this pulled up. You want me to do that, Mayor?
Please.
Will do.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? No. With that, I need a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda, council minutes of January 3rd, and bills received.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All that in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed 5-0. I haven't said that in a while. Okay, on to item number 5, resident comments other than anything that's on the agenda. Do you have any resident comments out there? Okay. And on to agenda number 6, Developing Community Development Report.
You're gonna get a group of us up here, unless we can all talk here, we're all in a group here, what do you prefer?
Please stand up and
Oh,
state your name.
okay. I'm Wendy Atkinson, I know quite a few of you, so thanks for your time. And then we have Amber Hoover and Heather Carl for Spalding Development Corp. And then we also are gonna talk first about our partnership that we're going to have for the 3rd and 4th celebration with the Lions Group. So we have Curtis Brown and Jacob Ewan here and representing for that. Do you guys want to say anything or before I start or?
Okay, good evening. I just want to bring everybody up to speed, and we are planning to run the event on a 50-50 split. We are still working out the budget and the events. We've had 2 meetings thus far, and we're just finalizing items and then obtaining final numbers so we can pursue. But it is our hope to have the 4th of July and work together as a group. So we are going to have a separate account for this first year just to see what we are going to obtain and deal with the events. So I think we're going to be discussing and finalizing at our next Lions meeting. That will be the first Monday of next month. So, do you have any?
You did a perfect job, that's good.
I have a question.
Oh, okay, question.
Who's handling the funding? Like, who would be, because we have a check for fireworks that we send.
Oh,
to somebody.
Okay, all right. Yes, we are going to set up a separate account. We haven't really determined where that is, but
Or just sit on it until you
Yeah, please.
decide?
yeah,
Just
Scott's
let us
out of
know.
town for a month, I believe, so, but we'll let you know.
Part of the reason that the two forces are combining is, obviously the Lions came to you guys or so many months ago that, lack of volunteerism and just getting older. They have gotten some new recruits on the, Belle Plaine Community Development side for July 3rd. We run into the same problems. And it's quite costly running the events that we're in hopes that we're gonna run July 3rd and 4th with the Lions, combining our volunteers and efforts that way to help. So both parties are not having to extend themselves, because we all work full-time, have kids, going running everywhere. So it's hopefully will help, so we're not having to put so many hours in joining forces with both of those events.
You can't handle the heat anymore.
Because it doesn't matter, I can't handle it.
Any further questions?
Anything else?
No, it's good to hear.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
It's always a highlight.
Thank you, guys. Okay, now my part.
You're up, Mindy.
I'm up.
You're up.
Okay, so we just wanted to come and kind of, I guess, get some clear expectations from the city. Someone can, you guys can write it up and let us know, or just kind of with the funding, what you would like with the expectations of what the funding we're receiving for our group. And kind of, we wanted to explain a little bit and answer any questions. And if you do have questions, be mindful of the rest of your agenda and your time. We'll probably ask to maybe email us the questions, and then we can follow up within a week or, a couple of days or something, get together as a group. Just to start out, I guess, does that anyone have questions on what we do as a group, or would like to more, I guess, explanation on what we do as our organization?
I think that would be nice.
So we're a group of volunteers. We're not paid. The board, we, like Amber said, we have jobs of our own, and we do this. We do the best we can. We have the best intentions at heart, even though, and we try to put on the best events for the community, because bottom line, everybody on the board is passionate about the community, and that's why we spend countless hours doing this. So for starters, but we do multiple things. We have held many of the community events. We have participated with different initiatives, like city related, as far as like the biocells. That's been a big one we've taken on. Like we did the Adopt a Biocell program last year and took the lead with that. And that's really, I think, turned out really good, other than the fact that we need plants and different things, but it's been a process and rain and all of that, which is kind of out of our control. We help with the flags and maintaining the flags that are on the main street. And you guys help me out, because I'm probably going to forget stuff. I wrote my little cheat sheet, but we're working on we actually were talking with Parks and Rec came and presented to us about the project at the Franklin Park in the bathroom. So we're starting to kind of reach out, or kind of apply ourselves and maybe some funds that our group has to some of the other projects in the community as well. We are wanting to hire a part-time director. We've had success with hiring, but it's a very demanding job for the level of pay and the expectations of the job. So we've had some struggles in the past with our directors because of that. And that's just kind of what the gist of that is. So it's been a struggle for us to keep that. And so I'm really proud of our group, because there's a 9-person board. Right now we have an 8-person board, and we've kind of maintained this organization and stuff on our own without having a director consistently. The funding that the city gives is to help with the director position, along with some of this other stuff that we do, just for everyone's that they're aware of.
And I think that's part of the question that came up, because the original thing that we heard was that the BPCDC was not gonna have a director, that they were gonna just try to do volunteer and have, and that's kind of what we heard. We were looking at a budget that's gonna be really tight. And so I think the question did come up, and I was part of that in saying, are we gonna fully fund you guys if you're not gonna have a director? Because that's kind of part of the Main Street Iowa and all of that. I'm not against funding the BPCDC and what you guys do, because we have really good events. It draws a lot of people into town. It's really important that we continue to do that. But I think it's good that you guys are here to tell us what you need and what's going to go on, just because I think we're going through the budget process now and things are going to be tight. So we just have to look at everything, and you guys were kind of on that radar too. So I think that that's, if you're going to look for someone part-time and going to continue the funding, then, at least from my aspect, I said, I still think that we should be supporting you guys.
And even though we're no longer a part of Main Street Iowa, there is several resources through that Michael Wagler gave us, who were able to still support the business Main Street District with different opportunities. And so we're really not losing a lot of those things, that we're still going to be able to offer the same stuff through, it's just not through Main Street Iowa. And he's given us all the links that we're able to help the Main Street District with as well. So that piece will not be lost with us no longer being with MSI, which is nice.
So basically, we're looking at the organization as it was, and the events as they were. Anything new on the horizon?
That just depends on kind of if we can get a director and get them up and running. Like I said, it's just like you guys have all been in businesses, whether and you are now, and when you get someone started and then, you have them for a little bit and then you have to restart and regroup, and the events don't stop for somebody. The community still goes on, life still goes on. So, yeah, we're trying our best. Like I said, we're a group of volunteers. So if we're not a part of this group, then that's another thing that the city needs to think about too, to be quite honest, is the city going to be able to do this, hold this and do this stuff? Because that's one thing to think about with that too. Because with us being volunteers and continually doing this stuff, it wears on you as a volunteer to do that too. So.
Didn't bring with me, but I recall something about $7,000 for downtown improvement. What can you elaborate what that means or what that is?
There was an email sent back to Sandy, kind of clarifying, but we're talking about ourselves, the sound part, and then talking about with the bathroom project at Franklin Park.
So it's basically money that we are allotting for different projects within the community.
And we just had to set that with our budget. We're trying to be frugal, but we're also trying to give back to the community, so to speak, with projects. So
Because this is my second meeting, somebody want to fill me in on bathroom project?
They're going to build a new bathroom down.
Who is they?
The city,
Park and Rec.
Park and Rec, the park department.
Right.
They've been raising money.
April, the Park and Rec director, has been going around to different civic organizations
And asking them to
and
contribute.
in businesses and asking them to contribute to get us over the top so we can get that thing done this
Okay.
year. Because it was stalled out for a while.
Has there been any interest to fill the position from anybody in the community? Has anybody reached out to you guys at all? Or?
so we have a couple people that we might have that showed interest, but we were also getting ready to revamp the benefit policy and the job description to try to accommodate with, what we're going to give that person for a salary, what the expectations are, to try to lighten the load on different things. So there's a lot of things we've been really mindful and thoughtful, but there again, all that takes time. We've spent countless hours between emails and everything trying to form all this stuff and get it ready. But when you have full-time jobs and you're doing other things, you got to prioritize things. So But we do have that completed, so good day for us. That's another wow moment for me and for our team, because we had that completed. We have that sent out. We're gonna be forming a, moving forward with that as a group. Once we kind of look that over and make sure that's what we want for sure, then we'll be able to. A good question. And if you do have anybody that's interested or remotely interested in that type of thing, it does not hurt for them to talk to us. So please let them come and talk to any one of us. We'd be happy to talk to them about.
Oh, it was nice to
Yeah.
see all your smiles done at the Christmas.
Thank you. That's another
Christmas
thing
thingy.
that we love to do, and it's just, that stuff is part of this. I mean, we don't, your guys' contribution helps towards that and helps towards, even though we haven't had a director consistently, but it does go to other things as well for the town, the city. And we are helping do that, where city kind, you guys don't have to do that. Which, that's a plug. We'd love and welcome anyone to volunteer for our organization. So anyone on city, Judy is on the board, but anyone else, please, if you have suggestions, if you have comments on an event we're throwing, we'd love to hear them and have you be a part of the event itself. And that would look good too. Mitch, you helped us.
I'm good at 50-50
We recruited you
tickets.
last year for the holiday homecoming for us, and we appreciate that. But yeah, honestly, I mean, that would look good if, we had city council members come and participate in the big city events. So just plug for that. Steve,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to say that when we had the downtown walk around, I think community development really took a lot of those notes that the state gave us to heart. And there's a lot of things that we do well, and there are things that we struggled with, or things that we didn't even know we didn't know. And that's one of the things that I think this board's really energized about based on the last meeting I was at. So,
The sound park is another thing with the $7,000 to go back. That is, something that we need to talk further. We need to talk about it with Parks and Rec and possibly with you guys. And that is one thing on that as well, which I think we included in that email, but just to touch base and circle back on that. So, any other questions? We have a treasurer here, budget expert.
I guess one thing I've always been concerned about is we do write the check yearly to you guys, and then throughout the year we'll get, the past director would come here and say, we need to buy trees, we need the city to approve some of those items.
I'm
So-
not aware.
Well, you have to kind of
Yeah.
think, there's some blurred lines on some of this stuff that we do. And so you gotta kind of have an open mind to some of this stuff too, because like I said, we're for volunteers or organizations funded by investors throughout the community, but also we're doing city stuff. But that is, the funds for that is.
subcommittee of the community development. Deco.
That's to help the city itself, like the town of Main Street. That's not the development work as far as the decorations and such. The development-
Those are not community development.
Theirs are
trees,
not
those city
community
trees.
development. They came to you as, yes, they were on the holiday homecoming committee, but they came to you as, hey, we want to make better. And I honestly think the trees, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, but I think the trees really added something more to it. And then the other thing that we had asked was a soil testing or two,
Excuse me.
and that is the city biocells. So we are taking that on to help the city, but that truly is the city. So the city should be contributing to that stuff.
In my eyes, that would be used towards city stuff. That's how I look at that personally. So that's all I'm asking, and that's how I feel about it.
And you guys can go ahead and figure it out, and that's why we had asked openly, because I don't think we've ever had clear expectations on how you feel that the funds should be allocated that you give us. So to have more clear transparency between both both group, both entities, whatever, we would like that. So if not, then we can come back and have a discussion on it. I mean, that's kind of us working together is the way I see it. So. Any questions?
Good report.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep,
Happy
thanks
to
a
see
lot.
everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
On to item number 7, police report. Chief,
Okay. I will breeze through this for our 2 new council people. There's a little handout there that was waiting for you when you came in. So when I do my monthly report, that printout is just our dispatch activity, kind of gives you an idea of what we dealt with during that month.
Okay.
So if you ever have questions on those, just let me know, but it's just a generic listing of the offenses and incidents that we've handled.
You just laid it over there, Chris. Where do you?
There should have been one that way.
It might be underneath your,
Yours?
It's mine. Just keep digging in there and you'll find it.
looks like this. It might be upside down or.
I got it. All right. Yep, thank you.
I thought I could give everybody one. So that's what that is. It's just, like I said, it's just a pretty generic listing of dispatch activity that we dealt with, so. Let's
Pretty
see.
amazed with the, how few tickets you had to write for snow.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised for usually the first snow emergency of the season. We usually end up with several. This year we had just 3 violations that were cited and 2 vehicles that were towed the following day. So,
I've appreciated your Facebook posts,
which one?
all of them that you put out there,
Okay.
that, that compliment the citizens on their behavior.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that was great. And then the second snow emergency, we didn't have any. So I think it was well enough publicized through social media and things like that. We appreciate it, and I know our streets crew does too, because it makes their job a lot easier. They don't have to plow around vehicles and so on and so forth.
They had their hands full.
What's that?
They had their hands full.
Oh, absolutely, they did. Moving on, Officers Bachelor and Shekel, they started their academy January 3rd down at Camp Dodge. So they'll be there through, I believe it's April 19th. So we are 2 guys short on our schedule. So we've got 3 out of 5 on the schedule right now. So we're doing 10-hour shifts. Mike and Logan are each doing 90-hour pay periods. I'm doing 100. So we'll be short a couple hours officers for a few months anyway, through middle of April anyway. I replaced our AEDs recently, so we carry defibrillators in our patrol vehicles we have for years. I caught wind of a state sanctioned program that provides AEDs to law enforcement agencies. We provide them at no cost. They sent me an email. I said, we've already got them. They said, we don't care, we'll still give them to you. And I said, well, I'm not going to turn down free equipment. So they sent us 2 more. So our 2 existing ones, before I can put these new ones in, I have to get everybody trained up on the little train the trainer type of thing. And then the other 2, the old ones, one of them is going to go to, I believe, Melissa Spading's school. And then I'm still looking for another organization to give the other ones.
You know what, we don't have one at the museum and we need one, and I've been trying to figure out a nonprofit. So if you're really struggling to find a home for it,
Okay.
we definitely should have one there.
Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But if someone else comes up, we'll figure out how to get one through. I know there's a lot of different programs that we can get it, so.
Started getting quotes today for a new patrol vehicle. After talking to Sandy and Steve, this is the year we need to be looking at getting rid of that Silverado possibly. So I got a quote today from Carl Chevrolet. Got another one from, what's the name of it? Galena Chrysler in Galena, Illinois. They send me out a nice little postcard. They've got vehicles on the ground there to pick from. And then I also reached out to Stivers Ford, I believe is the name, down in Waukee. I don't know a thing about them. We've never done business there. We've never done business in Galena either, but we'll see what they got to say. Let's see. We already talked about the snow emergencies, and you all know the 8th and 9th Avenue railroad crossings have been closed. They are treacherous, dangerous. Judy got stuck on one. She found out. I've seen the effects of a train on a vehicle. Don't go there.
Judy.
So, yeah, it's been in the best interest.
There were several people that got stuck there.
Yeah, it's in the best interest of everybody to just keep them closed for the time being until that snow and ice melts off of there. We don't need any accidents. So.
And Terry Collum reminded everyone that on the building that's right next to that is an 800 number, and that takes you to UP dispatch.
Yes.
And you can give them that location, so that's the ability of stopping a train if you ever have to be.
It's probably the quickest way, but 911 also gets it done too.
Yeah, okay.
Can't remember, you can't think of that, but
Yeah.
911 and our dispatchers had that, they got,
Well, that's good.
specific on speed down, I'm pretty sure, so.
Mm-hmm.
I had a complaint for, not really a complaint, but just more of a concern from a citizen here a while back. The section of roadway between 4th Avenue and 5th Avenue on 16th Street is extremely dark at night. And checked into it, I agreed, and I'm looking at possibly adding a street light up there. I talked to 3 or 4 residents up there, they're all in favor of it. They believe that it would help add to the security of the neighborhood.
Can I add to
So
that,
forth.
Chief? May I add to that?
Yeah.
So to get a new street light, we just have to fill out a form.
I got it.
And I gave Chief the form, but if we want to do any other ones, if there are any other areas around town that anybody thinks are just dark, it's just, we put together a list, and then I think we make a resolution or something, and then Alliant Energy drops the poles in, gets the lights ran to them. And, you know, as neighborhoods change and, you know, the lights themselves have changed. So some of them were eliminated or moved. And if anybody sees a dark spot, just let us know. It'd be nice to do a bunch at once, and you know.
Yeah, my plan is to canvass the entire town tomorrow and Friday both and see if I can come up with any other areas.
That is a dark spot.
It is very-
I can work on that tonight too.
Okay.
As well, as I'm on about, just take note of specific areas. Do new poles have to actually be put in, or can they be added to an existing pole?
Well, I was
Already a pole there?
gonna bring that up. I'm curious if we can just add a light fixture to our siren pole.
Alliant has to, or ITC, one of the two has to own the pole to be on. So it would just be an additional, I'm pretty sure. So it's not a big deal. They're happy to do it. We just got to make sure we have electricity in the area close by. And
The residents I talked to up there, they were just elated that we were looking into that, so.
I heard a complaint a few months ago from someone who lives down by the school crossing on 7th Avenue. So I don't know if anything has been done since then, because we've got all that new crossing to consider, but that was an area that was also of concern.
Just dark at night.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll look at that one too.
7th and 7th.
7th and
Yeah,
7th,
seventh and
yes.
That's what I got for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Chris. Okay, agenda item number 8, possible motion to appoint Gage Kinsler as the city attorney and Jennifer Zrodnik as the assistant city attorney. This was kind of coming into play for a little while, and I think it's just finally all come together, so they want to flip roles. So, any questions or concerns on that with anybody? I don't think so. With that, I need a motion.
I make a motion to appoint Gage Kinsler as city attorney and Jennifer Zarodnik as assistant city attorney.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passed 5-0. Okay, item number 9, approve the reappointment of Dick Wells to the tree board for a 3-year term. I spoke with Dick, and he is very interested in doing another 3-year term on that, so.
Yeah, I so move. He's a good guy. Works hard with the trees and plants and things.
So we have a motion.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. And item number 10, approval, the appointment of Mike Kaufman to the Variance Board of Adjustment to replace deceased member James Daly. and his term will expire in January 2026. And I spoke with Mike, and Mike is very interested and very excited about taking on that role. Any questions or concerns?
Just about the variance board itself. And how many people are on the board and where do these meetings take place? And
Oh, is it five?
They're in here on an as needed basis.
right,
So if there aren't any variances requested, then they don't have a regular meeting.
but it's all local people. And
Yeah, everybody, there's a good cross section of folks.
I probably have that on a list somewhere, right, Sandy?
It's on our website.
Good.
Yeah, I think all neighborhoods are represented and there's both male and female members, so
Okay, I just
it's balanced.
still learning.
Yeah, you bet.
We have a lot.
Because we're doing a lot of things around town and building and whatever, the variance board has met more in the last, 4 or 5 years than they have in a long time. So we actually kind of keep them busy. So they, it'd be nice to appoint someone that has a strong interest in it because it is going to be a pretty active board, I think.
So just a nice, wanted to know a little more about it.
Yeah, you bet.
If there's no more questions, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Mike Kaufman to the variance board of adjustment, term to expire January 26th.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay, on to item number 11. We talked about this a little bit last meeting. Discuss for possible selection and approval of a council member to fill required council representative on the Donovan board to replace Mary Peck's role. Do we have anyone on the council that is interested in this position?
Well, tell me a little bit about it.
It's Carol Sue Donovan was a resident that left several $100,000 to the city of Belle Plaine with the intention of doing beautification projects around town, like in parks, or the Donovan fund is usually where I get my match for tree grants and stuff like that. They pay for other projects in parks, or I think they paid for some stuff in the bio cells. So the interest off of that,
All the downtown hanging baskets in the summertime.
so the annual interest on that fund,
Where do they meet and how often?
they
Same
meet.
Here and as needed.
So when we have a grant request, Sandy wrote up a grant request for something not too long ago. So they met and deliberated on it and decided if they were going to back the project or not.
Very good. Yeah, I have no problem volunteering to do that.
It's a fun group.
My wife's on it.
Oh, fun.
You'll meet Tracy, so.
No, you can go break it.
All right. Well, if there's no more discussion in Charmaine's volunteerism, we need a motion to approve Charmaine McGuire to the Donovan board.
I move to approve Charmaine McGuire to the Donovan board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
Right.
Item number 12, discuss for approval the setting of a public hearing for Wednesday, February 21st, 2024 at 6:30 PM in council chambers at the Belle Plaine City Hall for amendment number 1 to the current fiscal year 24 budget, mostly due to grants and the hailstorm.
So I handed out in your packets. Two things. Yeah, it was in the packet. So the first is this, which is the actual amendment as keyed into this state site. And any of the numbers in the current amendment column are supported by the documentation behind it.
Excuse me.
And what that shows is what that amendment is for. It's not at all unusual for us to have a fairly sizable amendment. This one is probably one of the bigger ones, mostly because of, we've gotten a lot of grants in the works this year that we haven't necessarily had in the past. I have a tendency not to budget for grants because they're always a crapshoot. I mean, sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't get them, and then I want to budget for something that we really don't have unless that department head just really feels pretty confident. So a lot of this is just added grant stuff. You'll notice how long the intergovernmental piece is up there. RAGBRAI got added to things kind of after we budgeted last year, so really weren't sure what was going to be there. All of RAGBRAI had to be accounted for. And then, of course, the hailstorm snuck up on us after the budget process. And, we had just shy of $400,000 in damages that insurance covered. So had to throw that in there too. I have a tendency to stall as late as I can so we can do as few amendments as possible.
And that was going to be my next question. Can we do unlimited amendments?
Yep, you can do as many amendments as you want. They're a lot of work, so I have a tendency to minimize how many we do.
But legally, you have to do them.
Legally, you have
Correct.
to do them before you overspend a program.
Okay.
So we are getting to the point where, in particular, the general government area, because that's where all the hailstorm expense went, we're getting really close to overspending that fund or that program. So it's time. I mean, we're gonna have to get this one rolling. The other thing is, on revenues, although I put them into the amendment, it's really not required because the state doesn't care if you get more money than you said you were gonna get. They do care if you spend more than you said you were gonna spend. So you have to make sure funds are appropriated in the programs. And I just tried to backfill. So, okay, if we had these expenses, is it because we had more money coming in to support those expenses? Otherwise, it looks like, really, we just spent another $2 million just because we had it laying around? No, not usually. Usually it's because we had a bunch of money coming in. Some of it was because we had it laying around, like any of the ARPA funds that we decided to spend.
ARPA?
American
Rescue Plan Act.
We got $364,000 of ARPA funds due to the COVID-19 program, and the state, the federal through the state divvied out money to all the towns, cities, for them to use. There's a list of things you can't use it for, but for the most part, you can use it for whatever. At the beginning, they were really pushing it to use it for something infrastructure related. So we kind of leaned that way with most of the stuff that we've done. It's either been safety or infrastructure related.
How does that work? If we don't use it, do we lose it?
Oh, no, we're gonna
Okay.
use it.
But yeah, we
I would
would.
never let that happen.
We can figure out how to spend the money?
We
Okay,
are not going to give free money back.
okay.
No, it's when we get into the budget, we'll talk about where we're at. We've spent, roughly half of it. at
But there
this
is a
point.
time frame, right? when you
There is
have
a
to-
time frame. It has to all be obligated by the end of 24. And then you have to have it spent by the end of 26.
I had a question on the expense amendments for the fire equipment, the clothing for the C60 fire damage. Was there any payback that came back to us because of any settlement or insurance?
Yes. Yes, there was.
Okay.
Think I have anything else? If it looks good to you guys, we have to publish this. prior to the public hearing, 10 to 20 days prior to the public hearing, so I could make a few changes to it yet, but otherwise I'll plan for it to be published
Thanks for the detail,
on
Sandy.
30. Oh, well, the 21st. So I'll plan on it being published on the 17th. 7th, sorry. I'm looking at a number and not 7th. It will be published on the
So yeah, Sandy did an excellent job of laying this out.
Yeah.
And we may have to do another budget amendment, but she did a lot of heavy lifting here and she scoured the earth looking for stuff that was needed to be corrected. And so if we do have to do another one, hopefully it'll just be a quick little thing.
And the
Still
Herring
takes the same
Hotel-
amount of time.
The Herring Hotel demo, did that come in right where we,
I think we did better than we thought we
is
would.
that right? That's good.
Yeah. Yes.
There are a few little things that, probably gonna want to seed over there. Doesn't do any good to seed this time of year. So there'll be a little bit of expense there that will probably apply to the project. And the 10th Avenue culvert project, I think he's still got to put just the signs and whatever rails. and stuff.
Guardrails, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of expense there yet, but so far everything has fallen into less than what you guys approved to be used from ARPA.
Any other questions for Sandy on that? If no more, we need a motion to approve and set the public hearing.
I make a motion to approve the public hearing for Wednesday, February 21st, 2024 at 6:30 PM in council chambers, Belle Plaine City Hall for Amendment 1 to the current fiscal 24 budget.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay, item number 13, discuss for possible approval of the RFP for the CDBG-BR grant cycle number 2. And Sandy has given you guys a copy of that.
This is, you guys struggled with deciding what direction you wanted to take the Catalyst grant that Kate brought last time, and one of the things you tasked her with was for her to try and find other funding that might be able to be used for the King. She found out that this program is still open for a round 2, and it's only being offered to 3 counties, Benton being one of them. So she approached Tracy Achenbach and Paula, who we've been working with on the existing one, and they helped walk us through this process. Did find out that there's an additional requirement that was not required for Brian Bach's building. And that's this RFP for housing developer. So they require this now. So we can't just say, oh, it's for the King, but he has the ability to apply for this. And, if he jumps through all the hoops, has a really good chance. They thought it would look like a good project.
Because there's 4 apartments, potential apartments upstairs in that building, right?
Right. So, sat on a conference call through that. And it was well explained. So this is kind of a cookie cutter one that the IEDA provides that says, okay, here's what we want it to say. You can tweak it if you want, but make sure you get our approval. But they're good with this if this is what we want to distribute. if this gets a go, we'll put it in the newspaper on the 31st, and then we'll ask for RFPs to be back by the 7th. Because the deadline for this is the end of March, and there's, there has to be a public hearing after that, and so there's a lot of more hoops to jump through, but, if everything looks good to you guys, we'll proceed with this. I think one of the pages that got sent out to you says where it's all gotta be published, it's gotta go in, two of the big papers and another site and local and website, so.
I don't want to be too philosophical about this, but I think the council did a great job of deciding which project to land that money on with the catalyst. Because if the catalyst would have been awarded to the king, or not awarded, but I mean, this is our horse in the race.
Right.
It would have been ineligible for this.
Right.
So,
It all worked out.
yeah, I mean, if everything continues, I mean, huge blessing to the downtown area. We know the catalyst doesn't play well with this one.
It plays
afterwards.
okay in the reverse order.
Yeah, right.
And this fits what the owner of the King wants to do. Obviously.
Zach was really excited,
Yeah, that's
really,
good.
really excited about it.
Any more questions for Sandy? With that, I need a motion.
I move we approve the RFP for the CDBG-DR grant cycle number 2.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Great, thank you all.
Thank you, Sandy. Sandy's been working hard on this stuff. Okay, item number 14, discussion regarding the council email addresses.
As part of that discussion, I know you guys had more to talk about, but what I handed out is I did a print screen for each of the council people and the mayor. This is what's currently on our website for you. So if you want it to look different, say something different, anything on here can be edited. It's just, this is what people currently see.
Well, I was the one that brought this up, and I think for consistency, professionalism, just, the way that people look at the council, that we should have emails that match. Now, the only problem I can see with that is I don't know how many emails you all are getting at your current email address, and if that would cause some problem for you to have to notify people that you need to change your email addresses or whatever, but that's just the way I look at it. They need to see us as a unit.
I would be in favor of us, when we got our Chromebooks, we all have an email, and it's for the ward. I'm, whatever it is, Ward 3, okay? It's a Gmail account, okay? So, to me, it seems like it would make sense if we would just all take that and use that, put that on the website, and then also when our seat becomes vacant and a new person is elected, then it's just a simple slip in. When there's a new Ward 3 rep, that person will take that email address. And we don't have to worry about any other changes, unless we all wanted to go with the beltplaneiowa.gov.
Which those have a fee, just so you're aware, monthly fee.
Oh, they do?
The beltplaneiowa.govs have a monthly fee, $6 a head,
Yeah, so
$6 a head.
Yeah, well,
Assuming we
You
have
don't need
enough
to
of
spend
them.
that money.
No, I don't
Gmail
think
works
so.
just fine.
I agree, Gmail the Gmail address is probably fine. I don't know how you feel about not having a name attached to it, even though it would be right here. Your name would be here and your face would be here. I have no problem with that. Anybody have any feelings about that? Are they happy the way they are? Did I open up a can of worms that really didn't even need to
Did you
be?
guys get a lot of communication?
I get some.
I do not. I mean, I just don't. Everybody knows me pretty much in the community, so they just get a hold of me in other venues. So I communicate with Sandy through my email on here.
Did it work? Did it work?
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I think we also have to remember what Dave said the other night. the
Yeah,
last
I do
meeting.
too.
Right, yeah, with mixing it with our own personal.
It's not a good idea.
Texting and all that.
But the reality is in a small town, it's gonna happen, so.
Well, that's
The
true.
legalese will tell you all the things you wanna do, but you know, you aren't gonna not answer somebody when they're,
That's true.
don't answer me here, you gotta go to there. You're not gonna do that. You're gonna answer them. Unless it gets into a real legal issue and saying you need to come to the council meeting, come talk to us as a whole.
Yeah, I just think we need to put forward a united.
In the beginning,
Front.
that is why we got those Chromebooks, is to do that.
Mhm. Mhm.
We had the Chromebooks, so we could have
Or the emails with the Chromebooks.
yeah, the Chromebooks, because we were doing, virtual, and then we had to set up an email, and then Mr. Cressley and I were just like, all right, well, let's just call them by what they're by the ward, not by their name, in case it changes, and the Chromebooks have to change, and
How you handle at large?
they're long
It's an
emails.
at-large one.
Yeah, at large Ward 1 or something like that. I don't have them.
But how do people know which at large they're talking to, other than the fact that they have to look here to get it? That's the way they know.
That's a good point. That's just the way it was set up for the Chromebooks. And
Can he change it to,
we could set up whatever we need to. I mean, if the Chromebooks were used during COVID because we were not able to meet for a little while, so we had, virtual meetings for a short period of time. And the Chromebooks were.
That was really the original intent, was because of COVID, and we were gonna have to possibly meet by Zoom.
We had to have an
And so
account
we
to
had
have
to right, and so, but I think we all set up our own individual emails.
But
So I really think you have to have it almost by name, whether or not you did M. Malcolm at large 1@gmail.com and do J. Schlesselman Ward 3.
But if you,
at-
go ahead, Mitch.
So, but
Sorry.
I think you almost have to have, I don't know if people don't want their names on but if you do that on the Gmail system, that way, then they know who they're getting a hold of.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind having my name on it. But if you
Because
bring
then
this up
when you're
on,
done, then you can just you can just delete it and take away the password, then it's over.
All right.
And someone else steps in.
When you see this on the website, they're all on the same page, correct? So therefore, you're seeing all these random emails.
No, you see everyone's name on the
Mhm.
first page, and like, for instance, you would click on Garrett, and then it would take you to Garrett's information.
Okay.
And
So
it's
they're
actually
not
a
all-
quick link, so you could click on an email address and it'll take you right in.
Mhm.
and it looks just like this. I was on it today, looking around, and then there's city employees on there as well with their emails and everything too. So,
What are the city employees doing?
Well, we're a little different situation because the city employees have to have Microsoft 365 in
Mhm.
order to work. And so.
It's another layer of monthly
email-
subscription.
Yeah, it's part of email.
So we have to
subscription.
have the .gov
Mhm.
when we made the commitment to update the website and update everything and communications. Every city employee, with the exception of a couple that just don't have the necessity for email, don't. Because there is a monthly subscription, and it is a way for us to save money if we don't have to spend it.
But listening to Gage last time too, I just really would rather not have a personal email. I would rather have one.
It wouldn't be,
that's,
you'd set
you
up
know,
you'd set up a separate email that would be specifically only for your council seat. So like mine
Right.
is mmalcolmbp79@gmail. That is not personal. That's strictly for communication. It's only used for communication for the city or for as a council person. It's nothing to do with my personal email whatsoever.
And I would like each of you to make sure you look at yours and that it says exactly what you want yours to say. It is required for there to be a method of communication to you. You don't have to give out a phone number if you don't want to give out a phone number, as long as they have an email contact.
Yeah, mine's mmalcolmbp79@gmail.
Well, I apologize, Charlie.
That's why
Well-
everybody wants to.
You're not.
I thought
I just want to be part of the
He's
conversation.
the one that's complaining, we're just leave her
You're not gonna
out.
get it. I'll email you one.
No, we're fine.
I'm sorry.
So everybody likes their own, I take it.
You're on the website though. I saw you.
Oh, good.
If it wouldn't sabotage my whole live stream, I'd pull it up for you.
There you go.
Oh, you had to do the underscore.
So Adam and I just have to make up our own. This is where we're at with
Adam
this.
did.
Yeah, I did. I just made up a completely separate one. And then like Mitch said, I just handled everything on that email specifically for council stuff.
Yeah, I'm just off, I just get kind of deep into how this all appears.
That's all right.
Sure.
So,
Adam, have you got it?
No.
Okay, well, you'll have Ward 1. I'll get it to Steve so he can clear it.
Okay.
And then we'll get it to you.
Yeah,
good.
I don't have mine either.
I just have a quick question for
So,
Sherman. Do
yeah.
you have more than one email on your phone? Do you know how that works?
Mhm.
Okay, all right. I was gonna, just pulls up a menu like that and you can jump from one to another.
Right.
And
So we gotta kind of keep it the same then, we think?
In my opinion, I think it works. I don't think, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think if you get yours set up to where it's specific for what you want, and as long as it's advertised on the city webpage, if people need to find you, they'll find you.
Yeah, it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's just about professionalism.
No.
I'm very professional when I answer the email.
So y'all, if anything changes or you want to change something or you get something set up, just email.
New picture or anything, Sandy said she can redo it and change it in a heartbeat, so,
Take the wrinkles out,
yeah.
filter.
Yeah, filter, let's filter it.
I actually like your picture.
Thank you.
You found a good one.
Okay, on to number 15. Section A, City Treasurer's Report.
I don't think there's anything real.
Stand out each.
Garbage is still negative, but we know that. And we are working our way out, albeit slowly, we are working our way out. I did happen to talk to the auditor about that, actually this week. And, I had mentioned possibly doing an interfund loan to try and make it so it wasn't something that we're tagged on the audit report. And he was like, yeah, I wouldn't. I go, but you tag us every year. He goes, yeah, but I wouldn't. You're working your way out.
I told you, you get there. But I understand how you feel.
I like those slaps.
We like clean up. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so he was actually cool with, as long as we're showing progress,
Oh,
we're
that's
moving in the
good.
right direction, and it's okay.
That made you feel good, right?
It did.
When will the next audit be out?
So
Soon?
that was something I was gonna talk to you guys about later. I have a preliminary audit report. I am allowed to individually share it with each of you. It is not public yet because they want to know if we have questions before they finalize it. So I will email that out to all of you tomorrow. And if you have questions, funnel them back through me. If I don't already know the answer, I will get with the auditor and see what kind of answer we can get back from him. There are things on there always are. Probably always will be, because we're an awfully small.
You can't get rid of your separation of
awfully-
duties
yeah,
probably
awful
ever.
small
No.
word, but, every year it seems to improve a little bit. And one of these days, I'm gonna get TIF off of there because I'm gonna understand it.
But then they'll change it.
And then they'll, yeah, then the state will change it. But,
Just where you're getting so uncomfortable. They'll change it.
usually,
Don't beat yourself up. They look for things pretty hard.
I get paid for nothing.
Yeah.
All right, number B, the city budget report. Any questions, concerns on that?
Income is ahead of pace, which is great. I always like to see that. Expenses. Are also slightly ahead of pace, which is not as great. But they're doing okay. Proprietary funds are doing well.
But it's the beginning of the year and you're putting out some of these expenses that,
Well, we're halfway through the year, because our year is July 1, June 30.
oh, we're fiscal. Okay.
We're fiscal, so we're halfway, this report is halfway through our year. So if you keep in mind 50% is kind of the goal. At least
Right.
50% of revenues, no more than 50% of expenses is kind of the goal.
But when you, for example, when we say we're going to give some group amount of money, you do that all in one lump sum at the beginning.
Not always in the beginning. Like for instance, the CDC payment,
Right.
I have a tendency to make in January,
Okay.
even though it's approved, and I could spend it anytime after July.
Mhm.
We do that.
But those kind of things can make things appear.
Yep, they can speed things.
Yeah.
It's one of the things, especially if you'd have looked a few months ago, the aquatic, park and rec, not park and rec, recreation and aquatics area looked way out of whack, but if you think about it, there was no expense for them in September, October, November, December, January.
You know, they'll have used
February,
80% of their budget within the
So, yeah.
Right.
first 2
so-
months.
Right.
You know, because they really are only gonna have 2 more months of activity for the whole year, not 6 more months of activity for the whole year, so.
So I'd
They're
say
starting to, you know, yeah,
you're
a
close.
few months
you're
ago, it
ju-
was like 80%, and now it's like,
But-
60%. Oh, all right.
That's
making
why all in
progress.
all, it appears you're doing well.
So, some of the biggest SKUs on here, like I said, when we were talking about the budget amendment, the thing that's throwing it most out of whack is the hailstorm repairs. 'Cause when you throw 370,000, it swings a lot.
Yeah.
That's a big swing. And I did not get all of the bills that I needed to be able to do the solar report, so I'll have to bring that around next time.
This will table the solar report. Okay, any more questions for Sandy? Sandy? Item number 16, city administrators report, project update.
Excuse me. I've been trying to spend as much time as I can helping out in various ways. So I, with the weather and big water main breaks, I was in the field with the guys. Since our last meeting, I can report that the well field is holding steady still. It actually bounced up a little bit from my last report. Not a lot, but a little bit, so that's a good trend. Nate and I will be meeting with Greg Brennan with, he works at the University of Iowa. He's the one that's helping us do the soil sampling and testing project out at the well field. He has done borings and all that stuff, and we need to start figuring out how he wants us to collect information from those sample points, and so we can have a game plan going into spring as soon as the snow's gone. And so I'm excited for that one. We were going to try to get together this week, but our schedules all didn't align. I got a call today about possible zoning changes or questions about zoning on 13th Avenue, where the condos are being built. So that developer would like to build a 3-plex there next. And we haven't quite figured out. He's asking me for help on how to try to get the maximum amount of housing in there without fouling up any zoning. There is some R4 across the street from R3 rather across the street from that to the west, where the apartments would be on the west side of it, 13th Ave. So if we did decide to change the zoning to the other side of the street, I'll have to talk to Gage, but I don't think there's an issue. It's not like it'd be a R3 out in the middle of nowhere that attaches, just like some of the other R3s in the area. There is a possibility that as we go through any zone ordinance changes regarding zoning lot sizes and the things we had talked about in our last meeting, that could be advantageous for him and other developers as they try to maximize, you know, we're not just trying to cram houses in, but just some people don't want to have an enormous yard. They just want to have a yard that they can maintain, and they don't have to have a riding lawnmower. And especially people that are going to be living in condos, they want to have a simple, small life in a small yard. So it's really exciting because they're going to be built, you know, it's several $100,000 project. And then there are other developers that I'm talking with a lot that are just really curious about when we're going to, you know, put lots up for sale and things like that. And some of them have to settle a little bit, but the council can decide whenever they please when we want, how we strategize, because we have some empty lots where houses were torn down. We have some opportunities to sell those. So building can take place on those. And there are people that want to build actual houses on them and not just garages. So there's interest on the 2 on 9th Avenue already, Catholic Church. And I have 3 or 4 contractors that are calling me all the time, coming up with any lots for me yet? You got any lots? And I'm pushing around till I know places in certain parts of town that have bare lots that people are interested in selling, and as well as the Norgard edition.
Did the Carlson property, did that get resolved? Because there was a person interested and Gage was somewhat concerned about.
I met with Gage this week, and I think that I'd like him to explain about it. So it's like, you know, there are ways we can have a development agreement. There are ways that we can release that, but then, you know, it took so long to go through that process that he didn't want to lose another year, 18 months, 2 years trying to get it back. So if we did do something like that, I don't have his exact terminology committed to memory, but he was still reticent to just sell it as a house when it is going to be a difficult demolition. And we have to deal with those periodically. Sometimes they're really easy and you can get them down in a half a day and load it up and take it to the landfill. And then this one's going to be more like the church. It's very close to the other houses, and the lot's small, and there's so what would the council like to meet with the developer to see their ideas and their plan, or what do you guys think about it? Because I'm not trying to push one way or another. I'm just trying to get I'm just trying to help match things up so we can get housing going and
I think I feel we should take the challenge and take that house down. That house has been rained in for a lot of years. I mean, it's a lot of work. I don't,
I want to revisit what the inspector said on that, but from what I remember, that thing was really well beyond trashed. I just would,
The door is open again too, so I wonder how much snow.
we've had plenty of people that have come and told us that they are ready to rebuild, and then all of a sudden something happened, life happens, I get it, but we fought a long time to get that property, and I'd hate to see that whole process start all over again.
Especially if we have interest from developers in building on these smaller lots. That's very encouraging. So this could be that same scenario
Yeah.
too. If that came down, we could.
yeah, so
That's pretty good going.
that was kind of the second part is I'm not fighting for one thing or another, but if we tear the house down, we can't build one back there because it's a violation unless we go through the variance and all that kind of thing, because it's a non-code conforming lot. And that's the way
which
some of
is
these,
something we need to address.
right.
So I would say that we could build a smaller house on that lot.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. So shall I work on getting numbers put together on how much it's gonna cost to demo that?
I think that's kind of what you're hearing from
Mhm.
everybody.
I mean, the upstairs windows have been open for years.
Yeah.
There's probably no saving it at this point. I'm sure it's so soft that
Mhm.
push right over.
Well, and I think there was a whole foundation issue with that, if I remember right. Isn't that right?
Yep.
It's just-
Scratch.
I had told you that there was a group that was interested in a meeting about the Herring Hotel property because of the storm that got pushed out. So it was supposed to even happen this week. So we're gonna push it out to next week or a weekend. So I don't have any developments there, but I'm excited to meet with people and see what, get some ideas. The railroad crossings will hopefully be cleaned this week. I've talked to the railroad twice today, and then I forwarded their information along to Jay. So they're telling me that they can have someone here flagging and making sure it's safe tomorrow and or Friday, depending on how long it takes. I don't think it'll
They
take
have
too
to
long.
be there to supervise, and then the
They-
city does the cleaning.
So they'll have radios, they'll have a flag out, they call it, so we know when the train's coming, where it's at, they can see it. And so I don't know that we're necessarily gonna need to get a work permit, because we're not working on the railway, we're just removing snow, so they'll let us know. They wouldn't remove the snow, I asked them to do that, and they said they wouldn't do that, but they would help run interference, so. Jay and I talked, and he's gonna go throw a bunch of salt up there to melt out as much as we can to get it kind of a place where we can scratch a dent in it and get underneath it with a tooth bar or something. So hopefully that'll happen tomorrow or Friday. We'll see.
Next week we'll have some 30s, so.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll melt a little bit too,
Yeah.
really clean it up.
And Sandy has done an excellent job on the budget, and she has everything bundled up for me when I come in to look and go through it line by line with her, and we talk about this and we talk about that, and we weigh out things, and we bounce stuff off of each other, and then we settle on numbers, but I want to thank her because she gets a lot of that. It isn't just the same from one year. It isn't a copy and paste. It's different every year, and especially with payroll and things like that. So I'd like to say thanks to Sandy before I conclude my report. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions about anything or follow up on anything?
else, Steve?
No, sir.
Okay. Number 17, mayor's report. I haven't had any meetings. And you all received a copy of this. Sandy and I spent some time talking about this, and what this is every grant that's out there right now that the city or people are involved in here in the city. One thing we want to do is we think we're gonna probably have a copy for you at least once a month. We don't think it's really feasible to have go over it twice a month. But what this is information, and we feel that you guys should have access to this information. So you guys know who's applying for grants, if the grant is awarded, where the grant is going, and you know, how it was spent and all that stuff. So it's really more informational for you guys. I think it's a really, really good idea, and kind of keep you guys in the loop. That way, you know, 6 months from now, you go, hey, didn't we talk about a grant for such and such? And you know, forget all about it. And this will kind of keep you informed a little bit.
It's an awesome piece of information. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and it's even got the, you know, who's applying for it and everything, because, you know, the city, you know, there's quite a few grants out there that the city has to have stake in. So, you know, I mean, this will keep you informed of what's going on and, you know, what we're applying for. And
It's nice to bookmark where they're coming from too, to have an idea, so we can, a lot of stuff, you know, I never heard of half of it before I sat up here, so that's nice to see too.
I think it's gonna be a good tool for the council to have in front of them. So, and then we can, you know, when you get the new one, we can talk about it, you know, if there's a new grant or whatever, or an old one, if you wanna just say, hey, you know, where are we at on this? You know, you'll have the information right in front of you, so.
Based on this, does anybody have any questions immediately off of this?
Impressive. A lot of work.
Sandy worked really hard on this for me, so I appreciate that.
That is impressive and a lot of work too. But the grants themselves are impressive
Yeah.
and a lot of work.
Yeah,
It was, when we
Yeah,
started
there's-
pulling it together, it was like, wow.
there's a lot of money out there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and turn the mute
No
on.
pressure, Jason. Yours is coming up, buddy.
The FEMA ones are not stalled out, but they move very slow.
yeah. We'll see, and that's another thing, because it's so easy to forget, you
Yeah.
know, about something like that just takes forever, you know? So I think it's just gonna be good information for the council to have in front of them. So.
Yep.
And other than that, I really don't have anything else, unless somebody has something or a question for me. Okay, number 18, there is no correspondence. We don't have any old business.
I would just like to say I was very impressed with the townspeople for everyone helping everybody get out of the snow. There were a lot of asking for help, people that were stranded, and you could barely read it to where there were 6 or 7 people that said, well, they're on their way.
Mm-hmm.
That was really impressive to see.
And thank you to the fire department for.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw you guys out there in below
Nice.
zero weather, scraping away
In my
from
front
fire
yard.
hydrants, and so, no, I was really, there were a lot of vehicles on the road and people helping everybody out, so that was really a very good thing to see.
And I appreciate the fellow board members who went online and said, you know, everybody did a good job. Got a lot of good feedback for that. And I think every one of us did something,
Mm-hmm.
or at least said, notify City Hall if you still need some help.
Mhm.
It's encouraging
awesome.
to see the council and mayor post stuff.
I couldn't get over how good Main Street looked Sunday when I went down there.
Yeah,
It
that was
amazing.
awesome.
I drove around,
Yeah,
you know,
it's crazy.
on Sunday just to kind of see things are, then you just realize how deep some of those drifts were and to tackle through that.
They have to
So,
move it all too, so it's like,
Yeah.
it puts in perspective.
It's going to war against, when you're living through epic historical storms, all the time. Those guys and the equipment breaking down, just they work on it as they go, and it's
Yeah,
it's
Jay and the
amazing.
Jay and the team really worked
Speaking
hard
of
on
which,
it.
everybody commenting on there, are we closer to having a Facebook page, or do we have one that I'm not aware of yet
Oh, yeah,
for the city?
that's one thing I was gonna talk about too, was, we start working on a Belle Plaine City Facebook page, so
Yeah.
I've been talking with Sandy about it, so.
Okay.
I'd appreciate that. It's, again, another one of those
Which I have
things
to share, I
that's,
will not be the person creating it. That is not my skill set.
That's kind of one of the things we have to decide. I didn't mean to interrupt. There are the way Facebook pages are, once you get it set up, it's kind of locked in. So you got to choose your adventure and how you want it to be. And
another one of those perception things.
yeah,
I want people to see an active city council.
do other cities have Facebook pages?
Yeah, there's a lot of them out
Okay.
there.
and I think that it will
Because you gotta set them
simplify
up right
this.
so you don't get, because believe me, with this sesquicentennial thing that Lynn and I admin, the amount of spam and garbage that comes through that every day is just unbelievable. People that are constantly trying to post stuff. So the way we have it is that you can be a member, but you can't post anything. Your first post has to get approved. So that's why you don't see all the people that want to clean your ducts and do all that other stuff, because if they aren't from Belle Plaine or have anybody connected from Belle Plaine, they don't get to comment.
Well, this isn't gonna be an interactive site,
Well, I think
right?
that's how we kind of talked about setting it up, so it's not interactive.
Yeah, I think that's.
It's just
I think-
informational.
Right,
Informational.
that's the right way of doing it.
Essentially an online posting board.
Right.
Exactly.
There's the info.
Good.
From the city.
Correct, yeah.
And if we can, we will make it so you don't even send messages through Facebook. You have to go back through the emails, and if we're able to do that, because otherwise someone's on Facebook all day checking messages, and
We'll sit down and
yeah,
kind of get a plan going for this, so.
The more information you can get out there, the more the people appreciate it. I've been amazed at the feedback I get when I put one little thing out there, and I know Garrett's really good about that. So Judy out there, everybody was out there doing something.
I know everything Ashley puts out, she hits
Yeah.
3 Facebook pages
Yep.
every time. Sesquicentennial, Belle Plaine News, and whatever the one, Jim Frau.
Yeah.
South Benton County.
And I don't think that should stop, but I think we do need to have one of our own. That
we're not using our
cities-
personal pages for it. As we do that, just a quick question: would the city council still like me to do my articles through me, or like when I do my city administrator article for the month that goes into the newsletter, I post that for my personal?
Well, I think as soon as we get the
As soon as we
city.
get it up, put it up.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. You just, piggyback
We'll
on that.
utilize it for everything,
Okay.
Belle Plaine.
All right.
People can share it off there to whoever.
People will get used to the fact that it's there.
Yeah, that'll be helpful. Thanks.
And then one other thing that I'd like to let everybody know real quick is Jay Hamilton is leaving the city. He has put his notice in, and his last day will be January 24th. So Steve and I will get together and kind of come up with a plan of attack, because that position will need filled with a specific person. So
Are you guys gonna do an exit interview on him?
I think we should. Mhm.
Okay.
be sure you.
That's
you
a
know,
week away.
Yeah, it's a 1 week from today, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep. But Jay's done a lot for this city in a short amount of time, so he was a huge asset here. So. All right. All right, so back to correspondence, none, old business, none. Resident comments. Any residents out there? Jason, any comments? Johnny?
We're gonna have anything go back to the fire department budget right now as far as discussion or input open to?
For the fire department?
Yeah, on tonight's.
I gotta, give me 1 second, Johnny. Oh, that's small.
It's not on that page.
So. Second page.
Excuse me.
Yeah, let me find it. Didn't have to be made.
Is that what they put in for it? Okay.
This one.
We'll just-
Did you not get this one?
Let them talk during the budget.
Yeah.
So do A first.
No, I didn't get that. I don't think I got that one either. Let me see.
That's not it either.
There you go.
This is it.
Yep.
There it is. That's it.
All right, got it. Thanks for the help.
What are we doing?
Okay.
Addressing this in the budget work session rather than now, if you're not. Or taking this like this now.
Go for it now. Take it.
I think, what we'll do is we'll let you guys go ahead and pitch what you got now. That way you don't have to sit through our whole entire budget meeting. Otherwise, you're gonna be here a while. So,
Yeah, the only thing that I talked to Jared a little bit about it, Jason, I guess he had this stuff done up here already, but just so the council is aware, we have 3 pumpers that are in rotation, and 2 of the 3 are past their life expectancies as far as NFPA standards and the lifespans that they're supposed to have. 2 of them should be in reserve status right now. They're expensive. Steve, he knows about it. 300,000 to 400,000 each is gonna just be a rough number. So basically, my point, speaking in it all, just put that in your guys' head, be thinking about it, that it's out there and it's a big rock rolling down the hill. So that's all I'm gonna say.
So some details on that. Our frontline pumper is a 2010. So that puts it at 14 years old right now, currently. That'd be our #1 truck. So I'm just doing a short little research, NFPA standards. Primary pumper, anything past 10 years, should be moved to a second line pump. And then I believe for
After 15.
after 15, it should be retired. And I understand that volunteer may be different. It may be 15 years. But at any rate, we were at 14 years on our first truck, and next one in line is a 2000. So that put that one at 24 years old.
And the rescue is 95, so that'd be another 6 years or 5 years past that.
Put some age on them.
Yes, sir.
What time frame are you guys looking at, like as soon as possible on this, or like, I mean, obviously it's.
Nothing's broken at the moment.
Okay.
Nothing's completely failed where we can't use it, but it's- someday something's gonna happen, but
Okay.
we'll just wanna make you guys aware that there's some age to our trucks and like replace
Can they,
them.
can they come in at 15 years and put it out of service? I mean,
No.
no.
If we had the attorney here, maybe he'd understand better, or maybe Steve does, but in the reading that I've done, there is something that affects the city's insurance rating, like what we pay for, insurance on our homes. When you don't meet a certain standard, then that drops you down a level and it increases that. So I don't know where all that works in, but that is what comes into play when you have equipment that is not up to standard.
Okay.
Do you purchase new trucks or do you purchase used trucks or?
The last truck we purchased was a used truck. It was a tanker,
Refurbished.
refurbished.
Okay,
Tanker's basically designated mostly for rural calls. As far as going for the frontline pumper, I would think for our city, I would think we'd purchase a new one for that.
That's part of our strategy that Jason and I have been working on since he became the chief, is we had a need for a tanker, and there were some of the opinion that we should have a new tanker, and I asked everybody to consider buying a refurbished tanker or a used one, so that, and that's the way the last couple trucks have been, so that we can buy a brand new frontline pumper. So when we've bought those in the past, they were done through, I believe, bond issues, because it's a large purchase. So one of the things that we've been doing, I think when I started my job, the fire equipment truck accrual was $5,000, and we've been adding to that trying to cut something else out of local option sales tax to add that. So we went to 10,000, then 15, and now we're at 18 a year with this budget. And so we have 88,000 in there. I was hoping to get close to 100,000 so that the community sees that we're trying to make a big down payment on it and then bond for the rest with other projects and things that we're going to do. So for instance, I think when this is my best recollection, when they built the community center, I believe they bonded for a fire truck at the same time with that note. And then later did something similar. So those are big ticket items, and the people have the opportunity to weigh in on those. But I think the strategy was, I don't think we should buy a brand new tanker because that's a county truck. That's a rural truck. If we're going to spend a lot of money and make a huge investment in the fire department apparatus equipment, I encouraged to consider spending the larger ticket on things that will be used directly in the city. Now, a frontline pumper can roll out on accidents or can roll to a rural fire, but a tanker isn't much more than a tanker. They can carry equipment and stuff. So that's why we've been not trying to kick the can down the road, but we're holding out for the new frontline pumper. That's the thought process.
If they only have so many years that you can use them, do they have any value for sale?
And does that go back into like the city's coffers or the fire department, or how does that work? I guess.
The last couple that we sold did not command a large amount.
I don't assume there's probably
So
a big market for 1990s.
we can, in the past,
It would be.
the city would throw that right back into the general fund and any dollar. So sometimes the fire department gets a little gun shy when it comes to, you know, donations and things and giving them to the city, because historically they had been just put right into the general fund pot and not allocated back to the fire department. And we've never, and I will never advise doing that.
We should stay with them.
Absolutely.
It should stay with
Yeah.
them, agreed, so.
And right. And so one of the ways it works is we try really hard to build the fire equipment accrual account. So we have skin in the game. The fire department has, you know, in the past used some of their funding that they fundraise through pancake breakfast and things like that. So they buy part of it. So everybody's got skin in the game. And then when we bond for a truck, then it's a community-wide thing. And it's our fire department is one of the best in the state. We're one of the largest volunteer fire departments in the state, because we're in the middle of everywhere and we have a huge fire district. So we have 40 people on our department, or we have the capability of having 40 members, and they usually keep that pretty full. So there's always a dozen people to roll on a daytime or nighttime fire.
So time-wise, are we looking like within the next 2 years of having to get this done, or are we, does this have to be done sooner?
The three vehicles that we have are totally functional. It is just that they are past standards, and it is something, I guess, basically to make you guys aware and to try to, you know, push it up to the front a little bit, to be thinking about it and moving towards it. And one thing to address what Steve said about the trucks. So when we do replace one, like the ones that we have sold have been the smaller trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they really don't bring much money. The three pumpers, when they do rotate out, they will still command a fairly decent amount of money that, and they'll go to two departments that aren't able, you know, to meet the standard, but they have to have a truck, so they buy it and they operate, you know, I mean, that's just the way it goes with the fire service.
Did you say the two of them are relatively the same age?
95, a 2000, and 2010.
So the 2000 or the 95, is that the one we bought
That's the rescue. Rescue
that Mitch turned us on to from
Monticello.
Monticello? Yeah.
That was purchased at $33,000.
So we would not be looking at a brand new one and a refurbished one at the same time?
The refurbished one is a tanker that we bought.
Right. I mean,
Char's saying you want
I'm saying
two
two
trucks.
pumpers.
If the city wanted to do it, of course, yes.
One at a time, sure.
Well, yeah, I know, but
We understand how it works.
I don't know, you haven't seen her shop, she's pretty good.
I'm awesome. I can find a bargain.
Just, I guess, so you guys are, you know, it is something that's, and I guess, I mean, Steve and Jason have been in communication, I guess, with everybody else.
Steve,
So-
correct me if I'm wrong, if we bond, doesn't that have to be done?
In a regular election.
Election.
So historic, that's kind of that was one of the things, that was one of the next things I was going to say is previously you could just say, we're going to have a bond election in July. Now it has to be on an election day, like November of, so that's one of the ways we can strategize. We're going to do it. It has to be in November. And that saves us money of having to pay for an extra election too. And it also ensures more people come to the polls.
So by that term, every 4 years then?
It's every time there's a regular election. So, every
Sometimes
two,
they're back
every
to
2
back,
years there's gonna be an
sometimes
election.
they're-
it is, yeah, there's some that are off cycle. So like, you know, this year was a school board election and then we've got a presidential election. So those are back-to-back election years. And then you've got your midterm, you know, sometimes it
This
skips.
year would be another cycle.
This, yeah. So maybe you guys might want to consider putting together a truck committee and just investigating.
Will probably be the first step.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna need to know what, you know, is it gonna fit in the, where's it gonna fit? What bay? What's it gonna replace? Where do we move the next stuff? What do we want to have on it? And, go for the one that we really need the most. And then we can, because we need to get back on the rotation, and this is what we've been working towards, so this is good. Then we'll figure out, we'll get that going, and then we'll figure out what truck next. But all of your personnel carriers, those are relative, those are from the 2010s. Good pickups.
2009 and 2015 on the pickup list.
Thank you.
John or Jason, you got anything else?
Thank you guys for.
You want to take a minute and explain to them about the grant you guys are going for, just to save some briefly?
Is that what you were touching on, Mitch?
Yeah.
Grant?
Yeah.
We are applying for a FEMA grant, assistance to firefighters grants. Number we put out was 196,000 for 20 air packs, SCBA, is another term for them. And I don't believe the air compressor was included in that number, but an air compressor and cascade system would be additional to that also. So this is replace our 2006 air packs that we currently have. And
Which has, on PPE, has a 10-year NFPA standard, so it's well expired. All of our airbags are well past their lifespan.
so that's the year-long process it's gonna be a long grant process we're applying for on that.
Anything FEMA is.
Yep. We have contacted Brian Vickers down in Texas to help us with writing of the grant. He does multiple grant applications and has successfully secured quite a bit of money.
That's good.
Applying for
Excellent.
grants. They're known for the firefighter grants.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Item number 21, Committee of the Whole, Utility Policy Discussion. This would be on the utility allowance.
There was a little bit of discussion started last time and then realized it actually wasn't on the agenda, so
So we put it
now we have
on.
it on the agenda. So you can talk about it.
Basically, Adam, what it was is there's some concern about, are you aware of our utility?
Yeah, I caught the last meeting and how it works with that, like a
Okay.
broken line or whatever.
Mhm.
Is this what this is?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so we wanted to get it on the agenda to discuss it. Secured
Well-
that it couldn't last.
Is it like a broken line or is it like a leaky toilet or a,
Any of the above,
so it can be from the street to the house?
anything that's coming through the meter.
Oh.
If it's from the street to the house, it's not being billed to anybody because it doesn't go through a meter.
Okay, you got to tell me these things.
Okay.
So basically from in the house.
In the house.
Yeah.
If there's a leak in the service line, that's addressed differently.
Okay,
So, if you guys want to make a change to what we're currently doing, make some recommendations about what you'd like to see, we'll draft a resolution for you to actually vote on next time. Or change again if you don't like it.
Did we find a
I
written
think-
policy?
I looked, I know I've seen it, I can't find it. I don't know if it was on Dave's computer.
I think what struck me is we had 3 right in a row. How many do we
happens all
typically
the
have? Happens all the time?
All the time.
I mean, you have some council meetings like this one that have none.
Right.
What is
And
the,
then you might have some that have 2 or 3 on them.
what is the, I don't know if I want to use the word policy because there isn't really a policy. What is the procedure, practice, when this happens? What do you usually see and what do you usually do?
So what happens is when we find out that someone, usually it's because a big bill comes through. And then we get with the homeowner, we try and figure out what's causing this. And, you know, a lot of times it turns out that something was broken. About half the time they knew about it ahead of time. And about half the time they're like, what? What's going on? And then they start looking and it's like, wow, okay, that was bad. Good thing you caught that, you know? So what happens then is we make sure that whatever the cause was has been fixed because it has to come to an end. And then once it's been repaired, we'll get a read to make sure that we've captured everything, all of the leak, because they only get one shot at it. Then Ashley will go back and see what their normal consumption was for like the prior 6 months, because what will be brought to council is excess sewer consumption. So if normally on average in a 6 month period of time, they use 3,000 gallons of water, then they will be expected to still pay for 3,000 gallons of sewer. If they use 10, you're not going to credit back all of the sewer because they would have used some even if there wasn't a leak.
Correct.
So that's how the calculation comes to pass, and then that's the number that's brought here. There's not been, that I've been involved with, recollection-wise, a distinction about did it go through the sewer, didn't it go through the sewer. Maybe that's where it started back in history. That's just not how it was rolled out. That it was explained to me and how it's been done through my tenure and then now Ashley's. So if you wanted to make a change, you could do one of a couple of things. One, you just eliminate it, it doesn't happen anymore. You got a leak, you got a problem, too bad, so sad, it's on you. City's washing their hands of it. Or you could say, okay, we'll do a credit if it didn't go through the sewer system at all. We'll honor those people. You had dirt floor. It was the spigot out the side of the house, went out on the ground, whatever. We'll honor those. Or you can take it one step further and say, okay, well, we know it's clean water because it's leak. Yes, it still has to be processed, but it's less expensive to process clean water than it is to process poopy water. So we'll do halvesies. I asked Nick about how he felt about how much energy it takes to do clean water versus how much energy it takes to do not clean water. And to just, you know, shoot from the hip, what kind of number would he assume? And he said, I would say, 50, like half. So you could potentially go that route. So those are just options, or the various options that you guys can choose from. And whichever one you're leaning towards, I'll try and draft a resolution to support that.
So most of the time, when people have these huge things, the city catches it before they do. Is that what you're saying? Because I've heard before that if when the readings come back, if there's something that's unusual, the city will try to contact the owner.
Yes.
I'm gonna say a large share of the time it's actually calling out,
Mm-hmm.
saying,
You have a
wow,
leak.
your read is like 19,000 gallons this month, and normally you're like 3. Now, does that mean that we would necessarily catch G3 is normal for you and it was 7? I don't know that 7 would be big enough to jump on our radar.
Right.
Usually it's like when it starts hitting double digits, unusually double digits, like, some places, nursing home, it's always double digits. So that would probably have to be a triple digit before it jumped out at her. But
I mean, that alone is a good thing to do. It's advantageous for the citizen, but I'm having a hard time with actually forgiving it, especially when we allow them to divided up on their bills,
Mhm.
future bills.
Yep, as long as they create a plan with Ashley and it's, positive. So usually whatever plan they come up with, it's like, okay, you have to pay for that month's current bill plus what? Plus 50 plus, or, you want to take this big bill, we're gonna spread it across 3 months and then by the 4th month will be current, or the 8th month will be current, or something like that. So usually it's just a matter of documenting a plan. What can you do? What will we allow?
Talking with Ashley, and I was gonna ask for this, and I just thought of it just now. What do you think what do you think the percentage is of her having to call out versus somebody calling in? I mean, if you had to take a guess, because you said most of the time
90?
she's calling out, you think it's 90?
I'd agree with that, if not more.
So in that case, a person has a toilet running
And they don't know it,
and
or they don't realize it.
don't realize
Well,
that.
they're not watching their bills, is what
Or
we're
they're not
saying.
home. I ran into this last year with my mom. She was in Florida for a month.
Yeah.
And then somebody tried to get a hold of me. Well, then I know Brandon works for the city, and he actually tracked me down. And I said, well, let's go. We got to get in the house. And
Yeah.
the shower spigot was broken, and she was gone. It was just running.
Yeah.
So we got the water shut off.
I don't disagree that Ashley could continue to notify people. I mean, that's awesome.
It's good for it, so we're not wasting water, one, and it's helpful to the citizen, as I didn't mean to interrupt, sorry.
So in this process, would you say that it's true that the city pretty much, when these people come through with these excess uses, that offering them or letting them know that the relief is available as part of that process? Is this
I would
correct?
say yeah.
Okay.
I know in the past, personally, we've had a toilet running and you can come down and get pills and put in the tank and you can, so the city's been very accommodating when it comes to that kind of thing, but that's just my thoughts on it.
It seems like we have had a lot more of these coming than we did initially when we first started this. That may or may not mean anything, maybe, I don't know. But it does add up. I agree with you, Charmaine. I mean, personally, I would be in favor of excusing the sewer only if the water did not go into the sewer. If it went out in the spigot, if it went down into dirt floor. I think if we don't do that, or if we do that, that would encourage people to keep a closer eye on their appliances, on their water softeners, on their toilets. Things happen, you're gone, whatever, but it is the owner's responsibility. I know when my water softener runs, I can hear it upstairs.
Mhm.
And especially with our water situation being the way that it is, every time one of these comes in, I kind of cringe just because I think of just the water alone that was lost, that could have been used elsewhere. So I think if we maybe tighten it up a little bit, and that would encourage people to keep an eye on their appliances and their toilets and their whatever is consuming water. And then if they do have a problem, continue to work out a payment plan, whether that's 6 months, whether that's a year, whatever we decide or the clerks decide would be appropriate, that it wouldn't be a burden, it wouldn't be a big hit like you have to pay this all next month.
Right. I mean, I don't want to do that to anybody, but nevertheless, it's still a homeowner's responsibility.
And there have been people that, because I was the water guy for several years, they would say, "Oh yeah, I had a leak and my kid left my hose turned on." And I was like, "Are you sure?" Because I have to look at these, and they'd say, "No, yeah, that's what it was." And then the next month they'd have another high bill, and I'm like, "Are you sure you don't have a leaking toilet or a leaking softener or something?" And they just had said that they had the hose, and so they got the forgiven the first month when it wasn't, So if someone's trying to abuse it, it'll come out if they're not savvy enough to fix a leak, and you know what I mean? Because when you show up to an investigation and you can't really tell if the hose was running or not because it was last month.
Yeah.
I think we should be careful too, though, maybe how we approach this, because we do have water issues too. And I don't think we want to seem like we're heavy-handed, and the optics could be terrible. like, hey, we already have water that's borderline unusable sometimes. Now the city's gonna come down if something broke in my house. It could, I think we need to be careful with this one. I kind of like the policy we have just for, it's a one and done. I think most people know that. And you probably, like you guys have mentioned, you don't want to use it on a leaking toilet. You're building up $20, $40 a month.
Right.
You probably don't want to call that into the city. So that's my thoughts on it.
I can agree, to a certain point with Pavish. I think we need to kind of rein it in, and I'm guilty of it as well, but my spigot was left on. That's not an emergency. That's not something happened to your water line. It was neglect on your end. If there's a pipe that burst, we could, address that as something happened. Yes, we can assist you, but if you're gonna leave your hose on all night, I'm sorry.
So you're agreeing with Judy, the sewer portion would be acceptable?
I think,
Yeah.
I think if we kept the current policy and had a maximum of, we aren't gonna, if you have a problem, there's a maximum of $400 that will credit. Anything beyond that, then you have to pay, or $250. But
But if they're paying the water, okay, so like
we're just talking about it's the one-time sewer issue to where, there's some, I'm just concerned about people on a fixed income. And they're gonna have someone's gonna have a running toilet that they didn't catch, and they didn't catch it for 2 months. Something happened. Now they've got a $600 bill, and they would have to be paid, 300 of that would be the sewer. But I think, we've had them as high as $800, $600. Haven't we had a couple like that?
Yeah. there's-
Higher.
I remember a $1,200 one.
Yeah, I think if
But they paid the water.
we had a one-time
Have
get
to
out
pay
of
water,
jail
yeah.
free,
Get
but
any
then maxed it at $250 or $300. That way,
It doesn't create such a hardship essentially, right? I mean, 'cause that's the last thing we want to do.
because there's a lot of people that can't afford to pay it. There are a lot of people that's really would be a burden for them.
For the 50% thing. I mean, I understand the concept was still going through, it still has cost.
Right.
Okay, well, let's make sure we're covering the cost.
Okay, to that though, I have a sump pump in my basement, so if I have a water line break, yes, I'm gonna pay the water, and I'm gonna pay what I generally pay, but then I'm gonna pay on top of that when all of it went out, my sump pump. I think that's what you were saying, correct? As if it's not going down the sewer.
Well, it can be I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I think I didn't speak well. What I meant is multifaceted. Okay, so you excuse it if it's not going through the sewer system.
Mhm.
You do 50-50 if it did.
Okay, I see where you're going.
That's kind of what I meant, as opposed to, so
Mhm.
And
to Adam's point,
I mean, to Adam's point, we have a water problem. I get
Right.
that. And so we don't want to rub salt in the wound. I understand that totally, but I would go with the 50-50. They have to have some responsibility.
Well, and they're getting hit on the water part, so I mean, their bill is gonna be a lot higher than what they are, but I don't think there's any reason why we can't have just a $300 max, so if you had $1,000, you're gonna have to pay the difference between that. We'll cover 300 of that. Or have a max to where if it's,
is that a number that you guys are good with?
I'm just throwing this out
I
here.
know you're just
because we're
throwing a number out,
we're
but
just
I'm
trying
just
to.
trying to.
And that's including if you can prove that it went out your sump pump.
It'd take a lot of water though. I mean, you'd have to have something seriously wrong. We left our hose on before and it
No,
was-
I think if it went out, if there was a water leak and it didn't go through the sewer, because we aren't gracing the water at all.
Correct.
It's
We
all
never have,
sewer.
yes.
If it didn't go into the sewer, then it's a
No
non-event.
cap. No.
If
you're
it
saying
did
no
go
cap.
if it did go through the sewer, then I think up to a certain dollar amount, they get a one-time grace, and then after that, so if it's $800, the city would cover $250 or $300 of it.
Well, I would suggest.
I mean, I don't want to make this overly complicated either, you know, I mean, we're getting down to percentages, so.
Well, I would suggest that we also allow a little time here. Like, I mean, don't change it like tomorrow. You know what I
Right.
mean? Say, okay, as of June 1st, you know, or, you know, I mean, and I'm just said that date, you know, put it out there, you know, that this policy is changing. Oh, and
Well, and I think we can look at this as saying, you know, look, we understand we're gonna have a major water issue that's gonna be hitting us here. I mean, it's hit us, but we're gonna have a lot of expenses coming up here at some point. We have to tighten things up. We can't just grace everything away. I mean, if that's $5,000 a year that we don't have to not pay for,
And that's a chunk, yeah.
then, but if we can, I'm really more concerned about people on a elderly and people on a fixed income, that if they've had a couple of water leaks or, you know, they can get a one-time benefit. I just don't want us to see to where someone's got a $600 bill that, you know, that one-time bill, then they've got to try to stretch it out because that hits people hard.
Well, then, are you more willing to do the 50% versus the flat
Yeah,
rate?
however that works. I mean, I think we can discuss any of that, so. And it's a you know, it's a one-time deal.
Okay, but if we do a one-time deal, do we do a little bit higher amount then maybe too? Because I mean, if it is a one-time shot and let's say their bill's $400 and they use it, well then let's say it's an elderly person and it happens again, their next one's $8. We're gonna we give them $300 and they're stuck with $8. So do we have the one-time deal forgiveness essentially have a cap that's higher? Or do we?
Well, that's
Do you
where
know what I mean?
that's where the person has to weigh in, and Sandy will say to them, or Ashley,
Right.
you know, next time this happens, you know, think hard on this. When do you want your forgiveness? Because
Ashley has tried to talk
Has
people
she?
out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So she's
Oh,
aware
yeah.
too, okay.
Well, I had one. It
Like,
was,
you know,
mine was
it's like
180 and Ashley goes, do you want to
really
use it?
sure
And
you
with
want
no.
But-
I'll pay this one.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
now
Let it ride.
I mean, if we've had them, it's been 1,000.
That's the one you use.
But I understand exactly what you're saying, and I agree with the philosophy. I think, you know, I think for right now, I kind of agree with Adam. I think the timing is probably not the best.
Right.
We need to tighten our budget. I think that we can't just carte blanche do the whole thing, but we've got to come up with something that's easy
Maybe-
worded and
Maybe we can just
clear to
make this
understand.
step then to the 50%.
then once we get the water fixed in.
Then we can talk
There we
about,
go.
yeah,
I have a
we can talk
question
about
this.
it.
Is the way we do this, is this one time per building or one time per owner? So if I'm in my home and it happens in my home that I'm in now, that's the one time for my home, no matter who owns it in the future?
Per owner, right?
Per owner, okay, so,
Yeah, that's.
so if I move, and if I've used it in home A and I move to home B, I'm done. Or I qualify for home B also.
You don't have,
That's a good question. Yeah, I would think you would be able to use it in home B also. That's just my
That would
thoughts.
be stipulated because.
Yeah,
Someone will, yeah.
Does that happen?
Sometimes.
Yeah, it will come up.
It would.
Yes.
you're getting nervous.
You're stressing me out.
I think we need to work out a percentage, 48.9. That'll get you going.
I agree with you, Adam. I get it. I don't want to rub salt in the wounds, but we need for people to be accountable because our budget is tight.
And I'm with it too. I see that side of it as well, but.
Okay, I will draft something
All right.
and bring it back next time. And
It's
y'all
gonna
can
start,
tear it
y'all are
apart
nuts.
then.
Yeah, it's good.
I think we're all thinking kind of on
And
the
if,
same
and if you
line.
guys, in the meantime, you know, you can email or call Sandy as well.
Yeah.
And, I mean, cause now that it's brought out, I think people are gonna, around this table are gonna think, you know, well, what if we did it this way? Or what if we did it this way? And
Right.
And just because
But
you bring
no,
it back next time doesn't mean you
No.
have to go
No.
yes or no. It can be, oh, I like
we
this, I
might,
hate
it
that.
might take a little
Tweaking.
You
discussion.
can tweak it several times.
And as a
especially if
resolution,
you're
it's
not
easy to
talking
change.
about Making it in effect until, you know, future
I mean, I hate it, but
Right.
it's reality.
Part B is our work session, budget work session, so should we take a 5-minute or 10-minute break?
Yeah, you bet.
So, we'll start back up about 8:50. How's that sound?
So Steve,
9 minutes.
45, 8:45. Okay.
But don't worry about it.
But,
We'll be fine.
okay, we're zooming back with our, budget workshop, session number 2.
Okay,
Sandy, it's all you.
so y'all can pull this packet out. That has tentative at the top. I'm gonna start with this cover page, although some of it I'll have to explain in detail a little bit farther down the process, but this is, the new certification page for the budget. This is my stab at it for this, fiscal 25 that we're working on. You'll notice the top line is different than it's been in the past. In the past, there have been a lot of general fund levies in there, and now you see it says combined general fund. So they took, I'm gonna say what, 10 levies?
Yeah.
And went, here's your new number. Eventually, where you see the $8.33 and change off to the right in column C, eventually that will be 810 max. That will be as much as they'll allow us to levy. It's a stepping stone process on the way down because we were at a taxable growth more than 3, less than 6%. They took a 2% cut off of all of those levies combined. So last year we were at 850 roughly, 8.505, I think, for all of the levies combined. And that's ratcheted down to a little over $8.33. Next year, again, they'll reevaluate again based on taxable growth. If you're less than 3%, you're flat. They won't make you do a cut down. If you're between 3 and 6%, you have to take a 2% dip. And if you're over 6% growth, you have to take a 3% dip. And it readjusts every year until fiscal 29, in which case that number will be 810 regardless. They're done adjusting. So they're giving us about 4 years in there to adjust. So that top line is general fund levy. The next line down where you see the 147,000, that is liability, property, and self-insurance costs. So that's basically our tort liability. What we have to pay to cover our buildings, our property, our vehicles, etc. We are still allowed to levy for that. And you can put what they say amount necessary. In other words, whatever we need. The next line down, the 2,966 is ag land. That's just part of the general fund, but it's just that property that's designated as ag, but in the city limits. And then you get down into the special revenues, FICA and IPERS. That is also something that you can levy for amount necessary as long as you're over that 810 levy. And the line under that, other employee benefits. So that's health insurance, longevity, car, workman's comp. I feel like I'm missing one. IPERS. That's that number. Those numbers later, I'll show you a spreadsheet I put together. It's farther back in your packet. How I came up with those numbers. I basically take every employee, if they work, if their labor is being charged to a proprietary fund, in other words, water, sewer, airport, garbage, stormwater, any of that, we cannot levy for that. That has to be paid by the proprietary fund. So these are just anybody that's being charged to one of the general funds. All the clerk, city administrator, road guys, public works guys, police. We use Rod at the community center. We can levy for his stuff. The library people can be levied for.
Park and Rec.
Pardon?
Park and Rec.
Yeah, park and rec, those can all be levied for. So that's those numbers. And then down at the bottom, you see the debt service levy where you see the 98,000. That's calculated, again, farther in the packet, you'll see that breakdown, how I come up with that number. So all that added together, I'm proposing we would levy for $15.58 and a fraction. Last year's levy was almost 1607. So the levy per $1,000 of valuation is coming down. The next page are general fund. The top portion are revenues. I won't go over each and every line, but basically the bottom line is our revenues year over year is coming down a little over 15,000. Expenses, we can talk about any of them that you'd like to see split out, but year over year, it's going up about 7,000. As I mentioned down there, our combined levy limit is going from $8.50 and a bit down to $8.33 and a bit. Negative impact is just under 12,000. However, that number was offset by the fact that we had taxable growth. So if you go clear back up to that top line where you see 24 budget versus 25 budget, you'll notice the numbers going up. It's going up not because we can levy for more per thousand evaluation. There's just more valuation. And I think that's why the state came up with the formula that they did, because they were like, okay, you can afford to take a 2% cut or a 3% cut because you have enough growth to make up for that money. And as I mentioned, for the next few years, it's going to ratchet down until fiscal year 29, in which case, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what happens, it'll be 8, 10, or less. There's a fund balance there that's a little misleading. It looks like, ooh, we got a nice little set of money there. It's a little misleading in the sense that taxes come in, although it comes in every month, it really comes in big 2 months out of the year. Because, property taxes, you pay half and then you pay half. Well, they're all due at the same time. Most of us, I got to pay it by March. I got to pay it by September. So you're paying those in those months, and then the next month is the month we see those big ups. The rest of the months you're kind of feeding off the money that's come in. So I would not focus too heavily on fund balance. Just know that the money we have is covering us for right now. And as far as our planned fiscal year 25 budget, we would be running at a $51 surplus.
You know how to do this.
Big bucks.
It was 42 for a little bit.
Yeah, it was 42. I got to clear up to 51. Like I said, I have detail. If there's any particular area that you're curious about what's in there or what the departments have asked for, I can pull it. Otherwise, we'll just move on for now. Debt service is the next page. These are the debts that we are still paying bonds on. We have the sewer revenue bond that has to be paid for by sewer funds, not general fund money. Then we have the refunding 2016 bond that's still paying off streetscape.
I'm sorry, what streetscape?
Downtown.
Yeah, but you mean
the project, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep. And then there's the, and then that project is paid by TIF dollars. And then there's the 2020 refunding bond, which was basically the pool. And that money is what we have been levying for. Now, you'll notice that I have a little note there that it's being offset by lost funds, which is 45,000, because of the way we voted in lost, that extra 1%. 20% of all lost dollars has to go to debt relief. So it automatically goes to debt service. In the past, that has paid for, we had 2 small bonds that totaled $450,000. They got paid off in June. So now I have this lost money and I can't put it towards that because that's paid off. So I'm applying it to this refunding bond instead. So that's bringing down our debt service levy because it's dropping it. We're not having to levy for 45,000 that we would have had to levy for the prior year.
What type of expiration are these? 20-year, 15-year, 30-year?
The sewer one is out there a ways yet. That was gonna be a while. One of them is in 2028. I believe that's the streetscape will be over in 28. And the 2020 bond is 20. They're not that far out. Other than the sewer one, which is, I don't know, 30 something.
We've been trying to save up and build funds and pay down debt as quickly as we can possibly do it since Sandy and I started working together, because we know we got a lot of money to spend to invest in the community. So I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's
good.
We're hawks on that.
And then you'll notice the debt service projected fund balance at the bottom is roughly 35,000. I mean, ideally you shoot for break even. However, I feel it necessary to keep a little bit of extra money in there because lost is a crapshoot, right? It depends on how much people buy and where they're buying it. So we can guess what we're going to get based on history or based on what the state is guessing that we're going to get, but we don't really know. And I don't want to wind up without enough money to pay a bond.
It's completely based on the local economy.
Yeah. And the same way with TIF. We think we know what we're going to get for TIF, but it really depends on what happens with the valuation. So that's why I leave a little bit of balance in there. It's not because I want anything in particular. The next page are the individual bonds. What obligation is due in fiscal 25 and where that money is going to be paid for. So last column at 98,880, that's the number that feeds back to that front certification page that I was at the bottom. But those are only 3 outstanding bonds, which is a vast improvement over when I started. I mean, not just me, I mean, just because I happened to start in 14, but we were maxing, because you can only you can only bond for a certain percentage, and they call it a debt limit. It's not like, oh, we're going to go out and we're going to get $1 billion. Well, they wouldn't let us do that. But
The debt limit's very low, lower than you think. That's why we're trying to pay down debt.
So that we have it available to the next project.
Because we're gonna have to borrow money for the next projects. And that's why.
Whether it be a fire truck or.
That's why we had to go with a different engineer. We had to go with a different engineering firm because the other projects we couldn't afford to borrow that money.
The next page is the employee benefit fund. I kind of explained those things, FICA and IPERS, other employee benefits. This is the breakdown. The police numbers, fire numbers, library numbers, parks numbers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you get to the third page, it's kind of where it splits the FICA and IPERS out from the other benefits. It's our intention to levy for as many benefits as we need to basically free up other dollars for the other things that are needed. With the exception of proprietary, I can't levy for any of those. At the last audit, it was brought to my attention, it's not something that's noted in the audit report, but it was brought to my attention that workman's comp should actually be here when I was putting it someplace else. So we had been expensing that through the general fund, and that he said it's really a benefit. And then the last pages on here are some of our smaller funds. I call them the minor funds. It's not that they're less important, it's just they have less activity. So the other funds, you know, we're taking money in or spending money out all the time. So there's lots of in, lots of out, lots of activity. So these are the smaller funds. Community center, we can no longer specifically levy for the community center like we have in the past. So that 13.5 cents is just part of the general fund cap now. Right now they're fine. They've got a pretty healthy balance there. And they also have some lost money, but in the future, they're probably going to have to rely on the lost area more heavily than they have in the past. They pay for things such as cleaning, telephone, internet, equipment, and supplies. They've been hit really hard this year. You know, gosh, they've had stove issues and washer and dryer issues and freezer issues and water softener issues, you know, all kinds of stuff. So we actually cashed out a couple of CDs that they had and rolled it into this area just until they find out how much they're going to have to spend to get those rest of those things back up and running. Library, they got bucks. Their revenues come from, there's a library trust, and the way the trust is written is X percentage of the trust goes into their checking account, basically, every year. And it's a once a year kind of thing. So I would say historically, they've been hovering around that $16,000, $17,000 a year mark. This past year, they got 22, just because interest rates improved considerably. Typically, they like to use that for additional books and materials, programming, and some of their programming supplies. They also cover a little bit of shortfall in the library budget. One of the items I sort of touched on last time is their board votes on their labor increases, and they voted in 4%. Everybody else was sitting at 3%. The same thing happened last year, the current year that we're in. They voted in 8%, and everybody else got 5%. So how we handled that is we made library improvement pay for the additional over what the rest of the city workers were getting. So last year it was, I don't know, a little over $1,000. And then this year, I'm trying to think what it is, $400 or $500. So it just kind of seemed fair.
Seems fair.
Medical building trust and agency, obviously Sleep Center is no longer renting there. Steve's still working on renters. It appears Miracle Ear will be renting a room starting soon. There's a little bit of back and forth with the contract, things that their lawyer wanted to see, things that our lawyer wasn't sure were a great idea. So they're kind of working through trying to find the middle ground there. I think it'll happen, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm hopeful for February that they'll lease that out.
And there's still room for other tenants
Yes,
in there.
they're gonna hopefully take one room, and then there's other suites in there, and those would be open for different clinicians. like to keep at least, there's two wings, the north wing and the south wing. I'd like to keep at least the south wing as like medical related stuff.
Awesome.
I can explain more later.
There are two larger projects there that we're gonna have to give some attention to probably sooner rather than later. The parking lot, although now it's covered with snow and you can't see it, it is really in bad shape and it needs recoated. And the retaining wall is leaning again, so it also needs some attention. So although it looks like they have some pretty good money, it's going to get eaten pretty quickly, I think, with those two projects. ARPA funds, there are very specific uses that can be allowed for. For the most part, we can use them for any legitimate city expense, with the exception of you can't pay down debt with it. You can't put it in any type of retirement fund. There's like 3 or 4 things like that you just can't use it for. But like I said earlier in the meeting, when it first came out, they were really pushing it towards infrastructure, really hard, either safety or infrastructure. So that's kind of the mindset, I guess, that we've kind of stuck with. So right now we're sitting with 153,000 in there. In the budget that I'm working on, I put 140 towards a water project. And it's really generic. Maybe it's the treatment facility. Maybe it's
A well or something.
Maybe it's a well. I don't really care what it is, but it's going to be something water related would be my suggestion. Obviously, you guys get that vote, but that would be my suggestion. We've used it for sirens. We used it part for the herring. We used it for that 10th Avenue culvert. So we've put some good projects for that money, but absolutely have to decide what can be a little broad, like water project. But we have to obligate it, which means you have to tell the state, here's what we're using it for. And I have to fill that information in April. So
That's a major need.
Donovan Fund, as we talked about that a little earlier, that 423,000 and change, that's the permanent part that we can't touch. It just has to sit there and earn us some interest. Typically, we get between $9,000 and $10,000 a year in interest, and it's up to the Donovan board to approve any expenditures. There is a application to be filled out. Sometimes I fill it out. I think the park board has requested some. I think Steve has done some. Whenever those applications come in, then I hand it off. In this case, I'll be handing it off to you. And you'll coordinate with Tracy to get the 3 of you together. Economic development. As it says, it's basically for economic development or economic progress. We use funds for farmers market, basically the Porta-Johny. Planning and zoning, Mark gets a share of all the building fees. Sometimes when we have things like a catalyst grant, there has to be some type of money kicked in that would come through that fund. Our business incentive grant process comes through this fund. Also, we did an interfund loan to the sewer fund last year, as you probably remember, after our lawsuit came to a close, in order to get that fund closed. And the sewer fund pays it back in 2 installments a year, a little over $20,000 each. final repayment will happen in February of '28. So basically, there's $40,000 coming into this fund each year over the next several years. Fire equipment accrual, we talked about that a little bit when the guys were here. Obviously, the primary goal of the fund is for, save up for fire trucks and fire equipment. Township contributions automatically go into this fund. And then you guys appropriate a piece of the lost that you choose to put into that fund as well. Park equipment accrual, no funds go into there. $2,200 of that is already appropriated to be spent this year. So the balance of $348 she's going to plan to spend next year, and then we'll probably close the fund unless somebody comes up with some other use for the fund. There are some park capital funds. I guess I didn't get to the capital part tonight, but I just don't know if equipment accrual is necessary. If we were building another park or something like that, it'd be a good thing to resurface again. But
If we were to look at getting, new benches or additional benches in the parks, would it come from this fund?
not necessarily, no.
Okay.
In all likelihood, it'd probably come from their lost.
Okay.
Because it actually has money going into it every time. Yeah. Playground equipment accrual, there's a little over $800 in there. There's nothing feeding that fund, and she doesn't currently have any expenditures planned coming out of this particular fund. Police car and equipment accrual. As Chief mentioned, it's kind of time to start looking at a vehicle again. I know it seems like we're right on the heels of the one that we just got. It's just, it took so long to get that one that really it was a year behind when it should have gotten.
Didn't we up our rotation?
Yeah, we sped it up so we had some value.
Much smarter to do it that way, isn't it? I mean, the expenses are gonna be.
Those cars were trash by the time we were done with them.
Us getting that Tahoe so late, is that gonna mess with our rotation then, or will that still keep us on cycle?
Well, if we stick with it this time, then we'll have to do a little bit of strategizing to replace the Tahoe, but I would like to try to stick to the rotations. That's why I don't want to wait anymore. I mean, I think we need to, as long as I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get a vehicle faster than the last one because the things are speeding up.
Behind?
I mean, we waited, over a
behind.
year. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to try to buy one every 2 years. I think, or it was
Yeah, we
5.
changed it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was
3,
5, I
3,
think we went to
3.
And we have 2 vehicles?
No, it was 3, we went to 2.
Oh, was that right? Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I thought it was
Oh, the
longer.
cycle was down
I
to 2
thought it was
now?
longer.
No, I don't mean the cycle,
Yeah,
I
so
mean the
so-
physical.
Mhm.
I don't mean the cycle, I mean the
Every 4
Yeah, I know we're
physical.
talking 2 different,
Yeah,
2 vehicles.
We have two
Every
vehicles.
every 4 years versus 6.
Right.
Okay. So getting the Tahoe late will make us have to do.
We're going to have to figure it out. Yeah.
Okay,
It's a
that's
good,
what I
it's a
was-
good point. Yeah, you're right.
I'm not saying back it up, I'm just asking.
No,
Right.
I just feel like if we want to, this is a case where the spending the money will save you money.
Also keep in mind that Silverado's got a lot of value and a lot of life.
And we originally, when we switched from cars to, we had some SUVs in the past, and then the mayor and I are like, well, maybe we'll try a truck because the sheriff has a truck, and sometimes, it just didn't work for us. It doesn't, it's not a good thing. It is holding its value is what we wanted to do. We thought about cycling it into another department. That's still an option. We'll have to just figure out what the trade-in value is, and then the department will decide.
You could also keep it as a police vehicle and reduce the amount of mileage that are being put on 2 vehicles, spread them out over 3 versus,
If we can cover that's just the biggest thing is with the strategy was selling the vehicle to get you to the point where you can fund it. So if we can get another police car grant or something, Chief, like we got last time or 2 times ago for the truck.
USDA.
Yeah, so if we can get a grant like that for like 25 grand, that might help put us over the top for keeping the third vehicle if we can find a place to keep it.
That's just an option. I'm not advocating either way. So we could.
Build you a
Anyway,
canine
I-
kennel
I
instead.
told Chief, even if something is available, we need to try and not pay for it until after the 1st of July. Because funds will not, I mean, unless you're selling the truck, we wouldn't have the funds to be able to support it quite yet. Public Works equipment accrual, you guys allocate a little bit of lost money into that feeds the account. As well as Jay has been selling some of the old junk. I'm sorry, the antique equipment.
Collectibles.
That we have, collectibles, there you go. There's no planned expenditures for this at this time. He was trying to save up for a dump truck, newer dump truck.
Most likely to replace the 93 plow truck, I would imagine. That's a-
Police forfeiture, we have that kind of split into 2 pieces right now, just because I needed to figure out what to do with Holiday with a Cop money. Because we want to keep it segregated, but yet police related. So generally, the only money going in here are donations. Technically, it could be forfeiture money, and we have some that we're waiting on. If they ever give it to us. There's about 30 grand out there that we're still waiting. It's been almost a year and a half now.
Longer.
That was a bust with a large amount of cash.
It's not been denied. I check every Friday. The man was convicted, right? So I kind of assumed that meant that would kick it loose, but not yet. Just keep saying pending approval, so.
Can you keep on poking them? Or is it kind of in their hands now and you can't poke them no more?
The people you poke
Not-
in Washington DC, does that answer your question?
Gotcha.
It's too far to poke. I try every once in a while and
Understood.
they're just kind of like, yep, still.
It's only $30,000. Geez,
Okay.
come on.
Yeah.
That's a lot for
Drop in the bucket.
Just as long as they're accruing interest for
What's
us.
funny is you have to do annual reports, and it's like, what do I do I do an annual report on a request.
Yeah.
Kind of funny. And then the housing fund, oh, I'm sorry, Holiday with Cop is also in there. Chief picked up over $5,700 in donations this year.
Wow.
Did not get it all spent, didn't have enough children to spend it on. So he's hoping that he wants to continue that as an annual program, and hopefully we can find a few more needy kids to spend it on next year. Housing fund, historically our goal was to demo 2 houses a year. Obviously with Jay on board, we were able to do a lot more with the funds that we had. To take care of some of the nuisance houses and the ones that just are absolutely not able to be salvaged. We also do have home improvement grants offered. They're not huge and we don't get a lot of call for them, but they're there and they're available. If anybody wants to apply for them. The homeowner has to live in the house, they have to stay living in the house for 3 years. So you can't do it for your rental property, you can't, do it just so you can sell it, flip it. It tops out at $2,000, so you'd have to spend, it's a 33% refund. So you'd have to spend $6,000 to get the full $2,000, which if you have to put on a new roof or new windows or something, not too hard to come up with $6,000.
Mm-hmm.
I would say we typically have 2, sometimes 3 a year. I think you asked for that list maybe last time.
Hey, Steve, if like, if we would sell one of our lots, would that go into the housing fund?
Yeah, so.
Or would that go into like economic?
I really like it to go back, so I'd really like to try to build this housing fund up for other, like, future projects and development sites and things like that. So yeah, anytime we have a housing related thing, I would like it to go back into here, so we've got that to play with.
That's where we've been putting all the ones that we've sold.
Okay.
So when
Yeah,
people,
I don't think I ever really knew where.
Yeah.
So.
because I just feel like this fund needs to sustain itself, so it's a, you know, if you demo a house and it costs $12,000 and then the lot sells for $5,000, it is what it is, but you get a house hopefully or something on that lot.
Money back for it, anyway, it's something.
You get something back. And you know, just like I'll be very quick, but like on 6th Avenue with the house there, if there's a house there that's worth $8,000 and then you tear it down and there's a lot that's worth $5,000, it still improves the neighborhood.
What if you would sell a building? Like a city, where would those funds go? Would those go in more of your economic development?
I think that would be a really good discussion for us to have, you know, like, let's say the Hart building sold or something like that, which is something that's a possibility. There's someone that's interested in buying that building, the main library, original main library. That could be siphoned in different ways depending on what our strategy is and what we want to accomplish, or what we want to start doing, or, you know, what we want to fund more. So I'm open for anything like that. And I want us to be entrepreneurial and try to run as much like a business as possible.
I was thinking about that the other day. Like, I wonder what fund these would go in.
So like if, you know, if someday we decided we didn't want to own the medical building anymore or something.
Well, and that's what I was gonna ask. Is it worth having that, knowing that we have a large expense coming up on it, or is it worth trying to sell it? And not put money into that?
That's a really good question. That's something that I've been thinking about. I have had interest from agencies that would like to come to town, like ASAC and things that we lost during whatever COVID, or, you know, things that left town, human services things, mental health clinic. There are different kinds. There are so many rooms in there. It could, if it filled up, it would be a really nice asset. And, you know, we get a couple of tenants in there, it'll cash flow. But if we do have to, you know, that's something that the council can think about.
Yeah, but if you gotta put retaining wall parking lot on it this year.
And constant upkeep.
How, okay, you get 2 tenants in it this year, how long till we're back to square one again?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's just.
Well, it's a decision you're gonna have to make sooner rather than later then, because if you sign that contract.
It's a
for 3
3-year
years,
contract,
then
yeah.
We're locked into it for 3 years.
Unless it would just transfer with them, but I understand what you're saying. If we can get it going, like I think we can get it going, I think it'll be a good deal. And I don't know all the caveats behind us when we got the building. So it was a Unity Point building, and then it became city property, and there were, from what I remember, there were some caveats, but I can't find
The
it.
city originally built that
Could be.
to attract a doctor, because I remember the first doctor that came there was a
Sabedimol?
No, it was before, there was even before that, it was a Filipino guy who started with a B. But I remember that was a city thing that was developed.
That's the thing is, so if there are caveats to what we can do there or not do, that's a good potential revenue source for us if we can imagine what we could do with it, and it fits into everything. It could be a place.
How would we find that out? How would we know?
I haven't had the time to prioritize it, but that's a good question. I don't know if that would be on in Schlu's record, KSC's records. I'm not sure how to track
You
that
may
down.
wanna-
Because I was always led to believe that it had to be used for some type of medical purpose.
That was kind of my understanding too, but I think if the
But-
city owned it.
Yeah, because when
I
that building
I don't
was
know there's
originally
anything in
built,
writing
I
that
think
says
that
it, I
Douglas
just-
was supposed to
it's
move
just
there
what I
and
was
then
always
he backed
told.
out.
Oh, what Mitch just said.
When that building was originally built, I think Douglas was supposed to move there and then backed out of the deal. There was something that didn't work. And then they brought another doctor in. He didn't last long, and then the Savannah came.
I mean, even if there is a caveat to it or whatever, I mean, at a certain point, if it becomes a burden to the city, we have to take action so we're not spending money as we were all talking about budget, just handing out money to something we don't need to.
Yeah,
But it would increase its value.
If we can get tenants in there, yes. But
No,
I'm
I
saying
mean,
if-
for sale.
Oh, for
By,
sale?
like, if you just improving the parking lot and
But
things like
sometimes,
that.
sometimes it's not good to do,
What-
you know.
what if the
I guess that was a question mark.
What if the person purchasing it decides they, I mean, you know, we seen that happen with where El Catron is now or whatever.
Uh-huh.
That building was tore down, parking lot was ripped out, and look at what that guy did. I mean, you could be looking at you could potentially be looking at the same thing.
Scenario.
Of they'll spend X amount of dollars and they're gonna just wipe it out and do whatever
Uh-huh.
they envision. So us putting the money into it was a wash or a waste.
I think it'd be great if we could have medical services here that people would use, but if there's not gonna be anybody coming there, you don't want that building sitting empty for very long, because then you just.
Well, that
deteriorates. You might as well-
deteriorates
I
so
agree.
fast.
I
You might
agree.
as well at that point. And if we're gonna consider this, then you probably wanna let Gage know that somewhere in that contract needs to be buried, that if the city chooses to sell the building, then we have a right to break the contract. And give them 5 months notice, or 4
We
months
need
notice
that
or
in that
whatever.
lease agreement.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna talk that way, then our lawyer should know so that somewhere in there it can be said that the city has the right to sell the building.
Sandy, thanks again for working hard on this.
Yeah.
I got just two real quick things, I promise. One of the police officers came forward and asked if the council would consider authorizing gym membership for police officers here.
Well, that would have to be part of negotiations, wouldn't it?
That's a question.
It's a benefit. I mean, I don't think we can just pull them out and say,
Sure you can. You can always give someone more than what their contract says.
We just
You
have to
can't
do
take
a
something
memorandum
away
of
from them.
understanding to their contract.
Give them
I
all.
only know that
You
because
can
we've
give
done
it
it in
to
the
them,
past.
You can't take it away.
You can give it, you just can't take it away.
What's the cost?
$32.10 a month per officer.
We'll have 5. Instead of the 5 officers.
Doesn't necessarily mean all 5 will choose to participate, but they could.
And
There
with,
was-
and with that being said, if that is a consideration, I would recommend that we keep it local as far as their membership.
oh,
it's gotta be
absolutely.
here.
Yeah, it's gotta be here, yeah.
So if we did move forward with that, I did work for an employer that you had to use that membership. Otherwise, you ended up paying for it out of your pocket. So
So if
they
you
can
choose to
track if you go there.
participate, then have
If you
to go
choose to
so
say,
many
yes, I'm gonna,
times or
yes.
whatever.
If
Then
that's-
we're gonna say how much they have to use it.
I was told how much I had to use it.
Where you,
Yes.
Did ya? That's interesting.
And they can track it by you using your key card when you go in.
You know, what about our maintenance people? They have to remain in good
I
health
think
and good
overall, I think it
shape,
would
you
be a
know.
good thing for all city employees,
But-
promoting health and things like that.
Mhm.
That's why I was just saying, our maintenance people need to have that activity
If we want to go
also.
down that route, then I would negotiate with the group and get a city rate.
Family discount.
Yeah.
Well, they do
City
This
family.
is,
They
this
do
is a
do a-
corporate rate.
Okay, so they do,
Okay,
they
thank
do
you.
a law enforcement rate too.
That's what that's.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it's a pretty good idea, really.
Yeah. I'm all for it as long as if you're gonna use it, you have to,
Use it,
yeah.
simple as that.
I mean, that was part of when I accepted it. Is if you're gonna have it, if we're gonna pay for it for you, you are gonna use it.
And you would consider this before their contract is up?
When is your contract up?
Oh, it's got another,
2025.
Yeah.
No, year and a half.
Probably, yeah.
I would think you'd have to. That's a
Yeah.
long time.
I can call up, I mean, if the council wants, I can call up Richard, the union rep, and just talk through it with him. Talk to Mr. Stone and draft a MOU and
Well, if that's the case, Sandy, you had some concerns about, well, if some things were written in there today. You just as well
yeah,
put it
you
all in
wouldn't
one.
change, yeah, they won't change that in an MOU. I would be surprised if they do anyway.
And how would we fund this? Where would it come from?
Question?
That was one of my things. It's like, we gotta figure out how to pay for it.
we,
I mean, if it's just the police, maybe something is like $400 a year or something.
this is what Sandy and I do. When we started on general fund this morning, it was negative
They're gonna
27,000.
be in such- they're gonna be in such good shape, they can get bikes and they don't need a new car.
Yeah, but how
We
does
have-
money just come out for them and how does it-
So if you're talking a couple $1,000s, we have a little bit of cushion in lost miscellaneous that
Why don't-
we haven't allocated to anything yet, if that's something that,
Why don't we see the numbers first? I mean, like, Popish, would you like to join? Schultzman, would you like to join? And see what the consensus is
Possible
with,
interest,
yeah.
like possible interest.
yes,
It's,
yeah, yes.
I mean, it's gonna be a.
I was getting there.
I like barbecue action. Single family.
Well, and you know, one thing too is it's kind of a benefit for a new hire too. You know, say, hey, you know, we also have this.
It is, but it's a reoccurring cost. Every
And it
year.
would be considered a benefit, so. it
could
will
be
show up
levied.
As a benefit on your,
Mhm.
Yep.
So it could be levied
they could be levied.
for anybody that's paid out of general.
Correct.
So that's
Okay,
something we could.
Last question, I promise. Back to lost. Sorry, where am I? Stuff. You got a presentation from CDC today. Didn't really get a lot of yay or nay direction based on the last presentation I gave last time. Are we good with how it was presented, or y'all want to see something different, or we're just good with where we're at? Don't everybody speak at once.
Yeah. Well, we did
Well,
have
I
some concerns about that, correct?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about it.
I don't mind funding them, or we were talking about BPCDC.
Yeah.
I don't mind funding them, but it's a one-time thing that we give them. And anything else that they need to budget that, and they shouldn't come back to us with any other item throughout the year that we have to pay for, like security and all this other, I mean, they need to budget. If they're gonna have their programs, then they need to budget for it.
So kind of like she asked, maybe we need to, these are our expectations, your expectations.
But the things they do are such a big draw for the business people. That's one I'm gonna have a tough time cutting.
I'm the same way. They volunteer a lot too, so they give up their individual time as well. So it's
I mean-
almost like,
Well, if I could, the reason that they came to ask us about security is because we didn't have enough police force, right, chief? We didn't have enough people to cover. So that's why they asked,
But
they
it
asked
was
us.
at the last minute. The whole thing is that, you know, it's for their planning and their understanding of what things are gonna cost, and that just is what bothered me at the last minute, because they knew what they were gonna need.
But I felt the rub. I mean, the minute we start talking, they're thinking $17,000. Really? For everything they do, and they do a lot in the whole year. And if they, and those are the kind of things that the citizens see and focus on, the celebrations. So if they came back and asked for money for a Christmas tree, I'd say, okay. But I get it,
Mm-hmm.
but yes, I think we need to make the expectations clear, but not get salty about it. It's like,
is the real issue, do they just need to ask for more money up front? Is that what they should probably do from us? Like, if they're always having this issue, should they just come to us for more money
Right.
initially?
I think the problem, Adam, was that they cut their director in half.
Mm,
So now they should have extra money, correct?
That would be the theory.
That,
be the
so,
theory.
Makes sense, because you would have.
so, but should then we cut what we give them? Was the discussion, how it all kind of just came out.
I see.
And I have to think about it.
I feel like they're a program that we should probably stay invested in reasonably well, just because they do so much from my perspective. And they, like you said, we want to have good celebrations. We want to have Christmas trees. We want to have these things. And it might cost us a little bit of money. It's gonna, but
And being they are volunteers, maybe they aren't budgeting as appropriately as they should. Now, when they get a person in there, problem is they can't keep one. And now they've cut it in half. It's going to be a challenge.
maybe the gym membership will help.
That was really good.
Slightly off topic. CDC is giving back the grant program. So they are no longer going to be involved in that.
I don't know what that means.
Business incentive grants
Okay.
always went through Belle Plaine Community Development.
They had the funds for
They
that.
vetted them. They made sure all the stuff was available. They made sure they approved the project, and then it came to council for you to say yay or nay how much money.
The money came
Okay,
from
so
us.
now we've shifted
So-
work.
so they're
Main
bowing-
Street,
They're
Iowa.
bowing out of that economic end of things, and
Well, that's
it's
an
just gonna happen at the city level.
important thing
So-
to know.
So Main Street, Iowa had,
So what I'm saying
Community
is,
development
if
is part of
there's-
business growth.
So
The-
if there is a fee to apply for these, those fees will stay with the city.
the reason community development had it is because when we were in Main Street, Iowa, we had to have different committees that ran different functions within community development. One of them was a design committee, and that was a group of people that had to know about the architecture and the historical integrity and the aesthetic that we're shooting for downtown. And they weren't able to fill the committees anymore. You know, there were there 5 committees, Judy? I can't remember.
I think
So- Each committee had to have so many, 4, 5, 6 people, and the volunteer base ran out, and there wasn't enough people with expertise in like the time. I'm not going to say expertise. I should take that back. The availability of people to meet, to talk about design stuff, and the Main Street project and the historical aspects of things dwindled out. And so community development had a loose group that was trying to continue that. And we basically just, they kind of had to consult with me a lot. So they just said, well, would you be interested? I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but it's just like, do you just want to take this back over because you were on the design committee since community development started pretty much, or, for a long time. So I just said, it's not that big of a deal for me to take that back over. If I can get some help from some folks and we can do that, that's fine by me. But that's why they had that level of vetting, is because they got the $100 for the application or whatever the application, the $25 if you're a member or what have you.
It seems more appropriate to me to be with the city, but maybe I just
With
don't
Main
know.
Street, Iowa, I think that it had to be with them, so they had involvement in it.
I get it.
So that's not a factor anymore. So
It's tough to get volunteers, and those are some of the most, I just don't. Say it, Adam.
I don't know. It's a rock and a hard spot with this one because they do so much. And so my other question is this: when we give them this allocation of funds, do they ever give us a breakdown of the budget of the monies that we provide for them? Have they ever given us a breakdown? This is the
They
money we give
did
them?
they gave us a preliminary budget.
Could we request that maybe moving forward? Just say, look,
We should have that.
We have a copy that we can get you.
and then
It
this
was
is the
before
budget.
you got on.
But shouldn't that be every year?
I mean, I think
Right,
a little bit of
I mean, their
accountability
counties,
would be-
It
you
is,
know.
and that's why Heather was here tonight, and that's why she asked if there were any questions on the budget.
Well, they should present it. We can't just say, we can't.
You can come tomorrow night to the museum and hear all about it. Yeah,
Oh,
Annual meeting.
it's the annual meeting.
what time? 6:30?
I know it's on my calendar in my office.
Yeah, it's on my calendar.
I think I did know that too.
6:30.
Very good. 6:30 tomorrow night. Be there.
Right
I
there.
swear.
6:30.
So what are you thinking?
I'm looking.
What are we thinking on the?
So, and I'm not taking away from them, so that they're a
Right.
volunteer group, correct? Okay, so let's compare a couple things here. They do the car show, to my understanding, yes, is that correct? They do the car show?
I don't know that we know what's going to happen exactly.
Typically,
In the past, they have.
The plans are in the works to work with the Lions Club for the 3rd and 4th of July.
Okay. All right. So with that, let's just think of a community very close to us, Chelsea. That's a volunteer group. And they have a tremendous car show.
Mhm.
Does Chelsea fund them? Does the town of Chelsea fund their volunteers? X amount of dollars to put on a car show?
I don't know.
They don't.
They don't.
They do not. So, I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to take away from volunteers, but
Agreed. Also, car shows probably don't cost that much money to put on anyways, like in the grand scheme of things. I mean,
Technically, they ought to make money.
agreed. I mean, I see Chelsea car show t-shirts everywhere after the car shows, and I see, I've been to them myself. That's a good point.
I just see them trying so hard.
But they also do other stuff that Chelsea doesn't do as well, So we gotta keep that in mind as well. We're a little bit bigger community. We wanna have more venues. I think Chelsea has a very good 4th of July. I mean, so we need to consider that as well.
Do you leave it intact this year? See how the
Now, once you,
coordination goes with the Lions group and how that works out this year?
once you do that, I mean, this is our opportunity, I think, to make it,
You get to
Make a
make a
change.
change every year.
well, I know, technically.
It's lost. No, not
Technically.
technically. Every year you get to reallocate what lost is given to you.
Right.
With the exception of 20% to depth service and 25% to,
I get that, but they've changed their structure this time, and that's what we're looking at.
true that.
So what would we actually be talking about doing here then? Would we actually be taking all funds away from them? Is that what the consideration?
I wouldn't take all funds, but there's a possibility of definitely reducing it. I would have to, because I look at the name, the Belle Plaine Community Development, and what are they developing?
Right.
When I understood with their connection with Main Street, Iowa, I kind of got it. And now they're running festivals.
So would this
So they're
be kind of
doing
like a
the trunk
chamber?
don't they do the trunk or treat? They
Mhm.
do the 3rd and 4th of July. They do the holiday kickoff. And then what else are they doing?
I think that's about it.
Easter, maybe?
No.
No. Do they do a golf outing?
But that's a fundraiser.
Mhm.
So I guess, my point is that they were connected with Main Street, and that was a development program. And if they're gonna, I guess tomorrow night, really, I would love to hear what they're gonna, as far as develop
Right.
for Belle Plaine. What are they, besides being a good volunteer program and all these things that they're putting on, and these are really good festivals, and Belle Plaine's known for them. And I think it's important for us to continue to have those things.
So here's another question. They're they're working together with the Lions Club. Do we write a check to the Lions Club every year?
The only thing we get to the Lions Club is $2,000 for the fireworks.
So this is typically what a Chamber of Commerce would do, the things that they do.
We're just a volunteer organization, basically, essentially, right? I mean,
Well, and see, with the chamber, that's really run by the businesses. And that's a business
Okay,
organization
all
to
right.
where the membership are
Okay.
the businesses in town. And we got rid of the Chamber of Commerce that used to be here in the commerce. There used to be a commerce team here too. I can't remember what they called it. But, and then we went to this Belle Plaine Community Development. I think that was because of Main Street, Iowa, right?
Yeah, that's why.
That's why that went there. So,
Yeah, the bylaws of community development kind of broke it up a little bit more. If I remember correctly, there was supposed to be someone, several business members and some, an elected person, someone who's in agriculture, so is like a more diverse group for the community. So,
because if they don't have a full-time director, and that's really kind of what we were helping pay for, I don't want to cut them off, but I think, we're looking at $5,000 expense for getting a gym membership. Maybe we give them 12 and then we put 5,000 toward the gym membership. Because if we're going to spend that 17, then we might as well make the money available somewhere.
All right, so Mitch, you had said that their economic development, okay, so I'm sitting here thinking about this.
No, I was questioning,
Yeah.
are they?
Yeah, so I'm sitting here thinking about them words, okay? Their economic development, and I'm just gonna say this, okay? Because this is what just went through my head. Economic development, doing recreational things. We have a park and recreation department.
We have a park and recreation person.
Right. Okay, I'm just making a statement there.
how long has this been going on that we haven't been able to maintain or retain a person for them with the CDs?
Well, it's been revolving.
It's a revolving
Sheila
door.
Halas was there for a long time, and then after that, it's been revolving.
So this is an ongoing issue with that.
Since 2018 was when Sheila left.
I think it's kind of like the role pays like 30,000 a year with no benefits. So it's, unless you, pardon?
They're to the director.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
It's
can,
40.
Yeah.
But
Which
which is
which
not a
healthy.
lot, but more
I
than
assume that
30.
job's probably pretty intensive though, for what you're getting paid, and you're probably a member of the community, so it's probably more than a.
Well, and you have to remember, when that was all started, they were doing the whole Main Street.
Mhm.
And I think there was a ton of stuff going on with that. And
Now they're focusing on 3 things. Is that what we're saying?
well, I mean, they talked to us what they were trying to do. They're looking at the biocells and they're wanting to help organize some things. So I want to give them a little bit of credit for working hard. I don't want to make it sound like they aren't, but the name doesn't match, what the group is doing.
Well, why don't you guys all chew on this? I don't have to have an answer tonight. We're gonna have hopefully a special section next Wednesday. Shouldn't be real long.
So tomorrow night at the museum at 6:30. It sounds like we all should be at a meeting tomorrow night.
Well, can we all be at the meeting tomorrow?
Yes, the public is invited.
Okay.
You mean you're curious as to whether that makes it
An ad hoc.
I can.
You just can't sit
Oh, yeah,
together.
that's right.
No, I mean, literally, I can post a
Agenda.
thing. It's not even an agenda. It's basically a thing that says possible quorum, no discussion, no meeting topics.
I love it
I just can't remember what it's called, but I have it on my computer.
because I mean, yeah, I think it's important if who can attend, attends.
Mhm.
Most definitely.
Okay.
Just know that y'all can't discuss this there.
Correct.
Or can't discuss anything
No.
except for.
What, can I say hi?
Your dog.
Can I say hi?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Item number 22, set budget work session. Number 3 for special session on Wednesday, January 24th, 24 at 6:30. That would be 1 week from today.
And I have to apologize. I'm not in town.
Also, just so you're aware, Kate was not able to be here and she wasn't prepared to hand off the stuff to somebody else for tonight. So she will be bringing the catalyst stuff to this meeting.
Okay.
And we'll probably present at the beginning of that meeting.
That's on the 24th.
Dallas.
Yeah.
Okay.
5 degrees.
6:30 library.
I'll make a motion to set the budget work session number 3, special session Wednesday, January 24 at 6:30.
Second. Go ahead.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Need a motion for adjournment.
Motion for adjournment.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned,
I saw Adam, he had
9:56
his
PM.
pen all ready to go.
Run out of ink.
Oh.